Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There will be strong language and adult themes. This broadcast is not intended for children.
Are we getting? Was there an echo, or is that? Yeah. Is there an echo, or is that? Yeah, we have an echo. I'm hearing myself. Well, nobody's watching at the moment, so.
I'm not sure where the echo's coming from.
Might be on Purple's end. Hello, Jenny.
Hi. I'm running a little late here, so.
No big deal.
I'm just finishing getting set up here.
Well, since we got a topic on cameras, I've got a lot to learn.
Oh, I can teach you more than you ever want to know. I used to teach photography at UW Milwaukee.
I've done in photography, yeah, but never really learned a lot about how the camera works and all that.
I've always wanted to learn film development. It's an interesting thing, and now everything's digital, so it's eventually going to be a lost art form.
Yeah, I got into doing photography after the film age died.
Hey, Sydney. Yeah, I never got to learn too much about photography. I still need to learn more. I can only do the basic click and shoot stuff.
Well, there's nothing really wrong with basic click and shoot stuff.
No, but I know it could be a lot better. Mostly, I need to learn more about lighting and most of the stuff I do is trying to take pictures of toys, very small things.
I'm pretty good at taking extreme close-ups.
There, I'm here.
Yep. What's our view of the park today?
Today's just a limited southern view that's including the city fairgrounds where we hold what do they call that damn thing? Gee, what do they call it?
Rodeo.
I can't remember. We have a little fair that goes on for 4 days in late July. I think it's Hoedown or something like that. And it's like 3 doors away from my front door, so I hear it every year.
Yep. Yeah, well, you definitely want to stay in the shade today.
Yeah, that's why I'm in this position. Although it's only 70, but the sun is pretty intense.
Okay. And we got Sydney and Greg Hartwick with us now.
Hi, kids.
Hello.
Hi, Aunt Jenny.
Oh, Kitty. Hi.
How you doing, love?
Yep. What you working on today, Kitty?
Right.
I am working on a wallet. I finished the lunchbox for my son. Earlier today,
Cool.
I finished the binding on the inside.
A wallet. Yep.
It's insulated and everything, and it's got
really
a double
nice.
zipper, and so it opens all the way up, and it's waterproof canvas on the inside, so if you do have any spills or anything, it's not going to leak through to the other side.
Do you have an insert in there that makes the side stiff and stuff?
It's in between the two layers. It's a combination of foam and fusible fleece and insulating fleece. It's called Insulbright, where it's actually got a layer of metal in it.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's used to insulate things like oven mitts or lunchboxes.
That pattern's really cute.
Yeah, my son picked out the fabric. It's Mario Kart.
Nice.
And then the waterproof canvas on the bottom so that it's sturdier than just the white fabric. And for Lego creations, my son's most recent Lego set that he got, we named it Bob the Beholder.
Oh boy, that's great.
Oh yeah, that's from the Doctor Strange Universe of Madness.
He got this yesterday, and he put it together, and he was like, "I want to name it." And I was like, "Well, it looks like a beholder." And he's like,
Yep.
"Okay, so Bob the Beholder."
That's bizarre.
He built that all himself?
Yeah, he built it by himself. Like,
Wow.
there's not been a single Lego set he hasn't been able to do by himself, except for maybe like, I think the Baby Yoda one that he got, where it's like a fucking Baby Yoda this big. He did need a little bit of help with that, but that thing was like thousands of pieces.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that Baby Yoda thing. That's
Yeah.
pretty impressive for his age.
yeah, well, and the thing is it wasn't so much that he needed the help. It was a little overwhelming for quite that big of a build.
Yeah.
So, he got a little bit of help to kind of make it go faster.
Yeah, I am sure though that that particular set is going to result in a lot of Lego tentacle porn.
Yeah, probably.
I would really like to get a Lego set of like the space station or the Saturn V or something like
They've
that.
got one, I think, of like the lunar rover too, and of like
they have that?
the end of the space shuttle.
Yeah, and they've got one of the Apollo 11 lander on the moon.
Geez, did they make the space shuttle so it can attach to the space station?
No, I
No.
don't know.
No, they have not made a shuttle in the same scale that they made the space station.
That
would be interesting though.
The space station, the ISS model, I mean it's a decent sized model, but for the size of the actual ISS, it's a small model. I think it actually does come with a very small space shuttle, but I think that space shuttle's less than 2 inches.
Oh, okay. That sounds about right. I've never seen one in the flesh, but from pictures it looks like it's around that size.
If you watch Simon Dan, he's got the ISS model in on the shelf in the background.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that. It's just you just can't see anything about it. Kitty, how do you make the wallet you're talking about?
It's actually not that complicated. There's not very many pattern pieces. There's basically I cut out 2 of them because one I cut a little bit smaller than the other one. I shaved a 1/4 inch off for the interfacing. So that way when I go to do the heavier interfacing, it's not in the seam as much. So you still get the stability, but it's not as thick going through the machine. But basically the main pattern pieces are these 2. You've got the flap and then the main body of the wallet. And the flap basically attaches here, and then it gets accordion folded along these lines so that it holds the inserts that go inside. And then there's just measurements for cutting the like the interior pocket and the credit card slot pocket. But this is just the stuff for the exterior.
And I thought a wallet was just a room divider that was less than 4 feet.
Purple.
Here.
Hey,
don't know how
it's
well
all
it'll
your
pick
frame
up.
of reference. It's what I'm used to.
So I don't know how well the camera will pick it up, but that's the finished wallet I made my mom for her birthday.
Oh, okay.
So that's how it'll look in the end.
Cool.
And it uses a turn lock for
the closure
the
for
class.
the flap.
Yeah. I'll probably use this one because these are actually better quality turn locks. Like these ones, it's done by essentially bending over a pin, whereas this one actually has a screw. Although the silver might look better. I'll have to figure it out when I get there.
Yep.
You know, the wallet is one of the best things about a gender change. Not having to carry that stupid goddamn thing in your back pocket anymore.
Well,
carry
yeah,
my
you
wallet-
don't have a back pocket to put it in anymore.
I carry my
Well,
wallet in
if
my
I
front
did-
pocket. Safer that way.
So uncomfortable and they're so ugly. Ugh.
Like to
Yeah.
be fair, my wallet I carry. I actually have two wallets. I have my chain wallet that I keep, cash and like the main, like card that I use. But mostly because when my son and I go out to the store, he likes to either hold my hand or because I use a cane when walking any amount of distance. If I have to hold a basket or something in one hand, then I have the chain there. So he has that for like a comfort thing because he wants to be like connected to me.
Yep.
And so if I don't have a free hand, he can just hold onto the chain. And then the other one is a wallet that I made that it's a bigger wallet and it's a skull shaped. Because I'm a gothic bitch at my core.
Yeah. I've always carried my wallet in my front pocket too. Actually, the wallet I have is one that Sloth Girl made for me from one of my old pair of jeans.
Oh, that's sweet.
So it's it's just big enough to fit credit cards into.
Well, once you start carrying a purse, I can make you a bigger, cute wallet. I'll make it nice and girly.
What was that, Jenny?
Nothing. I'm just listening to Kitty.
Yeah.
I don't think Purple heard that, Kitty.
Yeah, I heard her.
Oh, okay.
Actually, carrying a purse is one of the things I have a lot of anxiety over because I get too easily distracted and I'm afraid I'm going to leave it places.
Then a mini backpack or a messenger bag instead of a purse.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I definitely need something that's at least got the full shoulder strap, so I'm not setting it down very often.
I find that if I hang it off of my shoulder and the bag and strap are on the same side, I will set it down and forget it. But if I keep it as a cross chest strap, I never forget that it's there and I never set it down.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I need is a strap that's long enough to go to the opposite shoulder. So I have picked up a couple of them. And that's another just kind of irritating thing about, fashion and that is the idea that you're supposed to have multiple purses to go with different outfits.
Yeah, that's
and if
fucking
I have
stupid.
to keep switching back and forth, yeah, that would screw me up.
No, that's
I mean,
stupid.
that's the most common way that I wind up wound up like getting locked out of my apartment and stuff before was that during the season when I was switching jackets on different days and the keys were in the pocket of the wrong jacket.
Oops.
I would not worry about that. I'm a cis woman and I don't have different purses for different outfits or seasons. I wear what I want when I want, and while I do have a couple different ones, they're bags I've made for myself. And the few that I've bought, I'll buy it and I'll use it until it starts to wear out and then I'll get another one,
Yeah, and I'm not going to be going for the high fashion, maybe for an occasional party or something, but for day-to-day stuff, I'm still sticking to jeans and t-shirts.
Yeah, no,
I have
honestly,
this-
you're better off. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jenny.
I have just one hobo bag for day-to-day casual stuff. It's black, it's simulated leather, and it's big enough. And I use that regardless of what I'm wearing. If I do go to like a shishi party or something like that, or a black tie, then I'd want a small
Roboting.
shield to it. But
Yeah, Jenny, you're starting to break up on us.
spend that money for a casual. I'm gonna restart.
Okay.
But yeah, like I was gonna say, just have your everyday bag, and then if you want, something for nights that you go out, just get a small clutch that'll hold your keys and, your ID and whatever small things that you need, and go for that. Like,
Yeah, well,
there's no sense in having a million different purses. It's just a waste of money.
yeah, I'm going to go with a denim purse because, again, denim is a good neutral. It basically goes with everything, and that's why it has been my fashion all my life. Because basically, denim and any color T-shirt works together.
I like to go with black. Seems to go with any other color, and it hides blood.
Black is fine, except
Yeah.
when it gets too hot outside.
That's true. But a purse doesn't really matter the color.
Yeah.
But
Black
can work
leather
with
is always
denim.
good and classic.
I can work with denim and, make you a little bag, and then I can make you a little mini backpack with a dinosaur print fabric. Because there's nothing wrong with fun, colorful prints,
Yeah, I definitely going to stay with dinosaurs too. And anybody who thinks I'm not acting my age, screw you.
Exactly. Fuck off. You only get one life.
Well, and I didn't even get the opportunity, to wear all the fun stuff as a girl in my 20s.
Exactly.
So
like
I'm
if
gonna
you
go
want to
ahead
rock the
and do it
Daisy
now.
Dukes and the fucking crop top, tube top, like do you, boo? Like,
Morning, kids.
enjoy
Diana.
yourself.
Hit the
Hey,
wrong
Di.
button. Hey, Day.
Okay, I was wondering what happened to you, Mage. Hey, Diana, how you doing today?
Move beef.
Oh, Hoopak.
I'm making a mess.
Wait a minute. Is this thing working? Are you hearing me?
Yes, we hear you, Di.
Okay.
We hear you.
I wasn't sure because my thing's turned off because I'm not dressed. I want to get some clothes here and get dressed.
Well, okay, Nerdy.
Huh? What?
Well, Nerdy says denim underwear for the win.
Oh, yeah.
And basically, since denim is usually the only layer of fabric I'm wearing, I guess you're calling that both underwear and outerwear then, huh?
Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say denim underwear. That's doable. I mean, I've gone commando in Levi's.
Yeah.
I always have.
Hey, Greg, how you doing, sweetie?
Since we have Greg here, he has the honor of being the first person to comment on my new channel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm subscribed, honey. Let's see how things go. You get anything uploaded yet?
Yes, I just uploaded something about an hour or so ago.
Oh,
yeah, I
great.
saw
I'll
your
have to
post
take a
that you
look
had
at it.
uploaded it, but I didn't get a chance to watch it because I was setting up here.
I will have to look. Oh, what do we have over
And as
here?
for your question, Greg, I'm thinking potatoes might be a good choice for you.
What?
Yeah,
Greg wants
potatoes
to
are
grow
easy
something.
to grow.
There we go.
There's Jenny.
I'm back.
Hey, Jenny.
Hey. The camera was in the sun, even though the interior isn't. It was starting to overheat, so I had to put up my sunshade.
Here we go.
Yeah, getting too much sun through the windshield.
Mm-hmm.
And the curved windshield was probably just magnifying the heat on it.
Hug on my foo and shove it up my moo. I eat so really, really full of poo. Anyway.
You always come in and give us that shit.
Yes.
Don't you mean give us that poo?
Yeah.
Same thing.
I mean, to be
There
fair,
you go.
she did say that strong language would be used, so
Yeah. I mean, I have to make you tell the truth on that, right?
exactly.
Oh, let me just get a
Oh,
nice
yeah,
shower.
back.
I want to get dressed.
So we touched it all on today's topic.
A little bit
Just
in the
briefly,
start.
but we really didn't get into it. I was sure that you had a lot more to say on it.
Well, I don't know.
You know, at the beginning, remember we were talking a bit, and I was saying about lighting and taking picture of very small things, which for me it's like trying to get the camera to focus on a Lego minifig instead of focusing on the background.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm thinking about maybe investing in a GoPro.
Most cell phone cameras and applications. I mean, what the camera can do in your phone is based on the software that you have to run it, not the camera or the phone.
Yep.
Mhm.
There's one application out there. I think they charge $3.99 for it. It's called Camera 2, and with that, you get just a shitload of things that the camera can do that it can't on the basic application. So you can do your close-ups, you can zoom in, you can independently adjust focus and f-stops and shutter speeds, and just like a real camera. It's really quite impressive.
It's called Camera 2, you think?
Mm-hmm. At least it is on the iPhone. It's probably the same on the Androids and stuff.
Is it like number 2
I really
or
like it.
or spelled 2?
Oh, numeral.
Okay.
Yeah, well, let's say I really haven't been able to use my my cell phone camera for much, just because it's autofocus.
Well,
Okay.
that's another thing. Even the base program that you get with the phone probably has the ability that if you tap the screen at one central point that you're interested in, that it will focus and adjust its lighting setting to that point.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm seeing Camera 2 API probe, Camera 2 probe, Camera 2 test, then the 3 others, or another one's a Camera 2 probe for Android 5.0.
Damn
Yeah.
cat.
Well, I don't know what the probe thing is all about, but the Camera 2, its icon is just kind of like a lens, and it's got a little red dot on it somewhere. I forget, upper right or something like that.
I don't see that in here.
Yeah, I've got a good digital camera. It's one that Diana sent me because mine got trashed at the last convention I was at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're able to use that. I really am.
Without it, I would not have been able to keep my my online business going through COVID.
Oh
Of
man,
course,
I'm
I have to have
doubly happy
pictures of
then.
everything I post on eBay.
Yeah, it was a perfectly serviceable camera. It's just that I had bought another one, and that one was redundant. And if you can use it, great.
Yep, it's serving me quite well.
As long as the battery stays in there and stays operating, that's fine. Because that's the only thing wrong with it is the battery lock is broken.
Well, it was also lucky that you gave me 2 batteries with it.
Yeah.
But it also happened that batteries I had left over from an older digital camera also fit it.
Oh,
So
great!
yeah,
Wonderful.
now I've got like 4 batteries and 4 memory cards for it.
Great.
Nice.
It's
That's
very,
amazing
very
that you have a battery that matches.
Yeah. Well, I think my ex had a camera that was the same brand, and that's what the batteries were left from.
Oh, boy, yay!
That's one of the things in cameras that has always made me mad, even back in the film days. That as soon as they change a model camera, even if it's like an Instamatic 104 to a 204, they'll have a completely different battery in it. You know,
well, there's
and
a
so you've got
method
all
for
these
that madness.
rechargeable batteries out there that are now junk.
Yeah.
Because the new model doesn't use them. There needs to be some kind of industry standard or something like that, because they're all putting out the same voltage. They all kind of last the same amount. They all have the same milliamperage ratings and things like that. It just seems so silly not to.
Well, the first digital camera I bought back in the early 2000s, I specifically, the decider that made me get that model was it took standard AA batteries.
Okay,
Mhm.
then.
It did not have its own special battery.
You know, my big fancy ass, way too expensive DSLR can take AA batteries if I'm in a pinch. There's a little adapter that you load the batteries into, and then put that in place of the main battery carrier. And so if I need something in an emergency, boom.
Yeah, well, and I hardly need AA's for anything anymore, but even those, like for Sloth Girl, she's got a set of AA rechargeables.
Does it appear that somebody wants attention?
Maybe a little bit.
I'm always looking for it. Yeah. Oh, the cat. I'm sorry. Okay, rub your pussy. Fine.
Yeah, there you go. Is you the bestest, kitty? Is you the most bestest, wonderful
Sorry about that.
kitty?
Got a phone call.
That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Although I did want to ask you about the grumpy octopus.
Yeah. So I actually have 2 of them.
They're for hiding your drugs.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's just gabapentin. If anybody really wants some, I mean, it's not really going to do much. It's anti-neuropathy medication.
Yeah, but can it interrupt pregnancy?
I don't know, but I was sterilized, so you know.
Oh, you're in good shape. No, load up the good news, will you, kids? I was just reading about an hour ago. Doctors are starting to not prescribe certain medications, and many of them are life-saving because they might interrupt pregnancy, and that's because of the SCOTUS ruling.
Oh, lovely.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
they have scared the doctors. It's kind of the same thing that's happening, that in Minnesota, that they supposedly legalized marijuana for medical use. But they wrote the law in such a way that all the doctors are afraid to prescribe it because they're afraid they'll be taken to court over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Methotrexate is a big one that's being discontinued by a lot of doctors because it can cause miscarriage. Well, methotrexate is one of the Plan B medications, isn't it?
No, it's mifepristone.
Okay.
That's the abortion pill.
Yeah, all right.
But it does sound similar.
They do have a compound where they use the one you mentioned, Kitty, and another one that's like a follow-up that you're taking a few hours after the first one and stuff like that. I forget the name of it, but
yeah,
I've seen that. I don't know that much about it. You know what really concerns me? I saw yesterday there is a whole organization that has had to crop up suddenly because of all this abortion stuff and the abortion after pills and people trying to get it even though their state says that's not legal and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
That they've already got situations where these bastards are investigating private citizens by way of stealing their computer records from IP address, their IP. And tracing them down that way and going after neighbors, that they might be using their neighbor's computer. So they start investigating the neighbors and and doing all this fucking goddamn secret police Nazi shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of, I've said this on other streams. I just want to say, as somebody that is an AFAB person, I want to say any person who menstruates if any person that has, that as an issue, do not use a period tracker app.
You just beat me to
Correct.
it. Okay.
Because they can and will take that data and sell it to people, the government, if they do a nationwide abortion ban, or even in the states, especially in red states where they're cracking down on them, do not use a period tracking app. You can do it the old-fashioned way, the way I learned before apps were a thing. You get a calendar, and then the first day of your period, you mark it with a P or a red dot. And then you can draw a line, or you can just make another mark for every day that you're bleeding. And that's how you know how long you are for your bleeding days. And then you can do your counting to have a general idea if your periods are regular, when the next one's going to be. And you can also gauge your fertility roughly, because it's usually about a week before you start bleeding that you are ovulating. But it varies from person to person. That's just kind of a rough guideline. But there are already states prosecuting women for miscarriages, and it's just going to get worse. And if they see that you were pregnant and, they're looking at your data and you try to leave the state and they see you were pregnant and then all of a sudden you don't have a kid, they could go after you and say that you went out of state for an abortion. They might get so dystopian and authoritarian that they will require a person to take a pregnancy test before they leave the state. And if they come back to that state and are no longer pregnant, they could be prosecuted.
Now, this is the thing I was just thinking about.
There's also another thing that you need to do for your safety and protection is you absolutely must start to use a VPN if you don't now. A VPN, if you don't know, will send out a request to this global network of computers, and
that's not necessarily going to protect you.
And it'll let you basically log into the net by way of somebody else's IP address, say in Europe or Russia or whatever.
Yeah, that's not necessarily going to protect you, because your internet provider can still see that.
Yeah, but the thing I was just thinking about is, are we getting to the point where we're going to have Checkpoint Charlie on I-80 between Ohio and Indiana? One of these days, are we going to be stopped and have to show our papers or whatever the hell it is if we're going from one state to another?
Yeah, I can see that coming.
Brave browser actually has a built-in VPN in their private viewing system.
Use a VPN no matter what Mage has just said, because you have to assume that at some points they're not going to be as sophisticated as they want to be. Just use it. It's you can get them for free or for $100 a year. Don't go out unprotected.
I think VPNs would definitely help, but it's not going to be 100% secure.
There are uses for VPNs, but if you're just trying to mask yourself like that, it doesn't actually work.
I mean, we're trying to do harm reduction and any measures we can to protect ourselves. So not using, and not just period tracking apps, don't use any health apps whatsoever, because all of that data can be collected and then used against you. We are really entering a dark time.
What a VPN can help with is if a woman is searching for abortion information and using a VPN, then if they subpoena the website that has the information, they can't trace it back to people who looked up the website.
Or that you've placed an order at a pharmacy in Canada for your Plan B pill.
Yep.
I honestly think that there's going to be pharmacies in Canada that I think Canada is going to step up to try to help U.S. women.
Oh, I would hope so, but I can't be sure of that.
Kitty, did you hear what Trudeau said the other day?
Yeah, that, anyone who needs an abortion, come to Canada, we'll let you have it free.
Yep.
But the question is getting there. I mean, considering...
We got that handled, too. There's a organization that has gotten going. I sent a tweet out on it a few days ago when I discovered it. It's a bunch of pilots who have decided to volunteer their skills and their own private planes to ferry people from wherever they live to wherever they need to go,
That's
so that
awesome.
they can have not just abortion services, but transgender treatment issues.
Oh, that's
Well,
fantastic.
and these are
Oh,
awesome
that's
that
wonderful.
people are volunteering for these things. You
Yeah,
know,
well, you're mentioning transgender stuff, Jenny.
Yeah.
'Cause I got from Beelzebub a couple days ago. I did not know that Ohio had banned the use of cross-sex hormones.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Hey, Doug.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm
Jenny.
just afraid that with the way they're going, that the demand for such assistance is going to outstrip the ability of the people who are willing
Well,
to
just give it a
provide it.
couple of weeks. It will.
Just
Oh, yeah.
before the stream started, I saw a small clip of George Takei, he on CNN, and calling Thomas a clown in blackface.
Like, honestly, Clarence Thomas needs to be impeached. In fact, I would be
He's not the
perfectly
only one.
happy with the impeachment
Yeah.
of
All of them.
Gorsuch, Kavanaugh,
Voted
Coney
up.
Barrett, and Thomas. And the reason why, Clarence Thomas, he was getting funds and didn't disclose it, which is a violation of federal law.
Yep.
And he also tried to help cover up his wife's involvement in trying to overthrow our democracy on January 6th.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
he needs to be kicked out for that.
Mhm.
And then Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh, and Gorsuch. Gorsuch needs to be kicked out because that was an illegitimate placement anyway, because that seat should have gone to Merrick Garland. But fucking Mitch McConnell did some fuckery and denied him that seat. And then, as for Kavanaugh and Coney Barrett, they lied, and Gorsuch too. They lied under oath that Roe was settled law of the land, that it was super precedent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all 5 of them lied.
Well, this is the
So there's
damn thing.
multiple reasons for.
How did anybody even believe them?
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't.
yeah,
That's
I didn't.
what I don't
know
get
how the
is,
senators could have
why
believed
did enough people believe them for them to get the position?
The
And I
senators were smart enough not to believe them. Why did they approve them if they didn't believe them?
Right.
And
I
then
mean,
you've
look
got
at
Susan
Susan
Collins clutching her pearls. They
Yes.
misled me. Fuck you, bitch.
Oh yeah, that's a bunch of shit.
If you're that easily misled, you're not suitable for your office.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, there
sorry,
are things
Katie.
that can be done right now. It's highly unlikely that they're going to be impeached. It's just not going to happen. There
Yeah,
aren't
that
the
would
numbers.
that would
Yeah.
require the
There's no
Senate
60
too.
votes to do it.
Yeah, it
I
would
believe to
require the
impeach-
Democrats to have a significant majority.
I do believe they need a supermajority in Congress in order to impeach a sitting Supreme Court justice. So that
Right.
they can't do. However,
They would also have
if
to go
they
through the
were
Senate.
if they were to get rid of the filibuster, they could then pack the court with more liberal justices to outweigh the conservative ones.
And
And
Right.
without getting rid of the filibuster, they can do it with a 51 majority vote.
yeah, or they can make a special carve out. They do carve outs for things all the time for the filibuster. As far as what Biden could do with the stroke of a pen, he could make it so that abortion pills, which that's how a lot of abortions, 91% of abortions happen within the first 12 weeks. So making sure that people know about the abortion pill, that you can get it through telehealth, and, making it free and giving travel vouchers for people to go outside of their state in order to get an abortion. Or he could set up, every single state has federal land in it. They could build abortion clinics on that federal land, and it does not matter if that state has outlawed abortion on the federal land. The state law doesn't count.
Yeah, that brings up another interesting wrinkle in it. Indian reservations are
Yes, that's
federal
also
land,
been
but
brought
not
up.
state land. And
I
yeah,
hear
actually,
that's
where
under
I
discussion
lived in
whether or not
Michigan,
it's
my
legal.
health clinic was actually on the Indian reservation.
There's a question as to whether or not that's legal, and that comes from some of the reservations themselves wondering if that's legal.
Yeah,
No,
and
no.
unfortunately, there was another court ruling that kind of undermine the sovereignty of the reservation.
I was just going to bring that one up.
Yeah, they went back on the decision in 2020, I think it was, of the amount of Oklahoma that is actually native land. That came out, I believe, today or yesterday.
Uh-huh.
So the Supreme Court's just fucking us left and right.
Well,
Yeah,
not
well,
just the amount,
all those
but
property owners
also,
are suddenly afraid that they're going to become tenants and that they might get treated like they've been treating us.
yep.
Well, if Trump gets off for his crime on January the 6th, you can basically guarantee that the DOJ is corrupt anyway.
I'm pretty
If
sure
he gets off,
is.
especially after the damning
Yeah.
evidence of the day.
Well, the
But
DOJ
can I
has
just-
already shown that they are unwilling to do anything because, what about all the people who just ignored subpoenas?
Yeah.
They could go
Well-
out and arrest them and put them in jail right there. That's an open and shut case. It doesn't
The
need any
legal
investigation.
those legal departments have a strategy. And just because the strategy does not reveal itself to you does not mean that it doesn't exist or that it doesn't look like what you think it should look like at this point. Merrick Garland has a reputation for being absolutely silent in all his career. He has never had a single leak of what's going on in any of his investigations ever. Okay? The man's got a plan.
Can I just say, from an outsider's point of view, that America's leaped back about over a century
Easily.
with its moral
Easily.
values.
And continues
Yeah.
to go backward, by the way.
Well, yeah.
Well, that
What's
was,
next? What are they going to pick on next? Gay marriage, is that next? Are they going to hit that?
Oh,
Actually,
of course it
yes.
is. Yes.
They've already said contraceptives. So, birth control is on the chopping block. Sexual privacy. So
Sodomy.
sodomy laws could come back, meaning, anything that isn't male-female intercourse
Yeah,
for the
sodomy's
purpose of
already been specifically
reproduction.
mentioned.
Which includes
And
oral sex, by the way.
Also same-sex marriage, because Clarence Thomas, when this decision about Roe v. Wade came out, he specifically cited that all of those cases were badly decided, essentially, and that, they needed to be revisited. Now, interestingly enough, there's one other case that was passed in the same in that same mindset that he didn't mention, and that was
Talking about loving?
interracial marriage,
Yeah,
because
you're
his
talking about
his
loving.
wife is a white woman.
Mhm.
There is actually precedent in history to ignore rogue courts.
Well,
Yes.
that'll probably be on the cards as well. I would have thought.
That would be the thing to do, except that we're not in an environment that is conducive to that. I mean, they want these decisions.
I
I mean,
just keep thinking of that show, The Handmaid's Tale. As horrific as that was, I couldn't. You could say, "Oh, that's never going to be reality," but blimey, it's really close to it, isn't it?
Well, who was it that wrote the post? Handmaid's Tale was supposed to be fiction, not a instruction manual.
Yeah, well,
Basically,
so
you
was
could
the
call it an
movie
instruction
Idiocracy,
manual.
but we got Trump.
And well, this
To
is
be
what
fair,
It all
Trump is a
boils down
symptom.
to Trumpism.
No, to be fair, Trump is not actually the problem. He is a
Right.
symptom of the problem. He is basically the festering, smelly, gangrenous wound, that is oozing pus to let you
Yeah.
know that you're about to die.
Yeah, you're.
The fact
You're
is,
in my
getting rid
head.
of Trump doesn't solve anything. It might help with the existential crisis that is that man with executive authority. However, the fact of the matter remains, all of the policies, all of the institutions, the way our society functions, and how we have a dwindling middle class. We have people that are working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and still can't afford a place to live. You've got an entire generation pretty much that will never be homeowners unless they luck into their parents or an aunt or uncle with no kids dying and they inherit a house. And all of these societal issues, people being crushed by student loan debt, people being crushed by medical debt, people having bankruptcies because of medical debt, losing their homes in foreclosures. because they had to take out a mortgage to pay for medical treatments.
Yeah.
And then they lose their home because adjustable rate mortgage was all they could get. And then eventually they want more than double the household income in order to not be foreclosed on. And I know that specifically because that's what happened to my parents.
You've also got the rent issue as well, haven't you? That's gone way above
and
inflation.
I'm sitting
housing
here
is
shaking my
insane.
head.
Housing is insane in this country. The housing, like it is so overpriced. And when I see people want to be homeowners, that's doublefold. One, they can't afford it. And two, you have Wall Street going into these small like neighborhoods where you have the single family like starter homes, the one that you go, you get married, you buy a small house, maybe do some renovations, live in it for a while, and then eventually sell it and maybe upgrade to a bigger house when you start having kids. Like that was what the boomers had. You know, they either inherited houses from their parents or, you know, they could afford working one summer to pay for their college. And then they had money to be able to go out and buy that starter home and then, you know, trade it up for a bigger and better home. They had those opportunities. We don't, because Wall Street's buying up all these houses and they're not reselling them. They are literally renting them only because they want a permanent underclass of renters, because you will spend more on rent. You could buy several houses for what you spend on rent over the course of a 20 or 30-year mortgage.
You know, I sat here shaking my head as you were talking about, you know, people going bankrupt because, you know, because they got sick. And it's like, we just don't have that here.
Yeah. In the
You know,
US,
it's like America, most prosperous country in the world, has the, you know, the worst approach to healthcare.
We know that.
We do.
in the
Yeah.
US, medical bills are the number one cause of personal bankruptcy, and more
Yeah.
than 80% of the campaigns on GoFundMe are for medical expenses.
Yeah, in the U.S., it's a death sentence to get sick.
Here's the thing.
I lost my house because of
There's
medical
somebody
bills.
who knows.
Now, going back to the abortion thing. Now, also, it costs minimum $10,000 to $15,000 to have a child in a hospital. That is if there are no complications whatsoever. You are talking, you know, you could buy a car for how much it costs to shit out a kid in a hospital. And if you don't have insurance, or your insurance wants to do some fuckery, then you're on your own paying that bill. Now, I was pregnant, I had a child, and insurance was supposed to cover it. But the hospital that I had him in, which was the hospital closest to where my parents live, because I was staying with them a month before delivery and for a few months after, because we knew I was having a C-section. So they did not, when my son came out, he had an issue with a valve in his heart, didn't like close off properly like it's supposed to in newborns, and he wasn't oxygenating properly. He was a grayish color when he came out of me, and they did not have the facilities at that hospital to keep him alive. So he had to be rushed by ambulance to a hospital an hour and a half away. And I spent 4 days in a hospital bed away from my child. And the insurance company said, oh, well, it's a separate stay, so it's not covered. And I was on the hook for $120,000 to keep my son alive for the 4 weeks he spent in the NICU. That is a house. That is a decent fucking house.
So, Kitty, how does that work now with the road case being overturned?
It means more women are going to be put in that situation.
Because obviously there's going to be a lot of unwanted pregnancies now and forced births.
Meaning more women are going to die, and kids, you know, single mothers are going to leave orphan kids behind and we already have an overstrained system with child protective services and orphanages. They're already over full because all these we respect life and we, you know, value life conservatives don't give a shit after the kid is born. They're like, oh, just put it up for adoption, but they never fucking adopt any of the kids. So you're going to have more kids in orphanages, both given up by the parents because they can't afford them, or because they end up having a kid that they didn't want because they were forced to carry that pregnancy and they die, because we already have a rising maternal mortality rate in this country and it's just going to get fucking worse. So you got the mother that's got 2 or 3 kids at home and she dies giving birth to one she didn't fucking want. Now you got 2 or 3 more kids going into the foster care system.
I estimated roughly.
The thing that the conservatives are saying as one of their standardized platitudes that absolutely makes me nuts is what Kitty just said. Well, you can just put the kid up for adoption. But what they usually say before that is, well, if you don't want to get pregnant, get your tubes tied. You show me the woman in her 20s who has been allowed to get her tubes tied.
There you go.
Yeah.
I estimated
They just won't do it.
You have
The
to be at
other
least
thing that-
35 or have 2 kids if you're under 35 for them to even consider it, unless you have like a medical condition. Like I was 26 when I had my son, and high risk pregnancy, it did a number on my body. So, I was able to get, my sterilization surgery after he was born. But that was a special case because I have a medical condition. If I didn't, they would not have done the sterilization surgery, even though I wanted it, because of the fact that I did not have at least 2 kids or was over 35.
Or
Party
unless you're
turned women
Mexican,
into-
of course.
The Republican Party has turned women into nothing more than brood mares.
I estimated.
Yep,
And
and
I
that's it.
estimated there's going to be roughly 1,339 kids a year extra into the foster care.
Yeah, well, they have said openly that it's a good thing that they wanted to increase the number of white babies available or increase the supply of white babies.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, Donald Trump was at a rally after the Roe thing, and this bitch had the audacity, the unmitigated audacity to say, "Thank you for protecting white lives."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then she said later, "Oh, I meant to say right to life." But that bitch sat there, heard what she said, paused, and didn't correct it. And
Well,
what's
she
worse,
didn't correct
fucking
it
crowd
because it got a
cheered.
good response from her audience.
Yeah, she did correct it, and it was just a gaffe, but the gaffe came from her subconscious, so it's just as legitimate of a complaint against her.
Yeah, but also it got a good response from her audience. This was something her audience was happy to hear.
So
I mean, for fuck's sake.
why haven't the entrepreneurs cottoned onto this and made a DIY abortion kit? A coat hanger, a lighter to sterilize it, and a bottle of gin with some instructions using a warm bath.
That's really a pretty tasteless comment. Women
Yeah,
die. Women
it's
do
gotta be
that,
like-
and women do
it's gotta
that,
be
and they
lightened up,
die
hasn't it,
doing
Jane?
it.
Yeah,
Women do
that,
die.
and they die doing it.
that's what's
It's
going to
not-
happen, though.
it's a
We're going
terrible
to go back
comment.
to how it was
There-
in the 60s and early 70s, of women getting abortions from people who have no qualifications and a lot of them dying.
Well, that's
And the
what's gonna
fact of the
happen.
matter is this the right wing, they're trying to implement eugenics again, because when it comes down to it, they don't care that Black and brown women are going to disproportionately die and then their kids are going to go into foster care. They don't want white babies aborted. And I guarantee you, I mean, you go to the fucking those detention centers they have at the border where women had to have surgery because they had, a fucking tumor on their ovary or something. And, they fucking sterilized her. They're doing forced hysterectomies at the border of brown women, but
yes,
they
there have
won't
actually
sterilize
There
women who
have
want
been
it.
allegations that they have been doing that to perfectly healthy women
Yes,
along the southern border.
and
Yeah,
yet
that's what I said earlier.
my sister has never wanted children. She has problems with her uterus like I do, and they will not do anything about it. She is a perfect candidate because of her PCOS for a hysterectomy. They won't do it because she's not 35 and doesn't have at least 2 kids.
I'm looking at the Gut Match Insure Institute. Abortion rates continue to vary by race and ethnicity. Black non-Hispanic had 27.1 per 1,000 women. Hispanic had 18.1 per 1,000. Other non-Hispanic, I think it was 16.3, with white non-Hispanic remaining fairly stable at 10.
Well, yeah, but even before, like Kitty's saying, even before the Supreme Court stuff, that back in 2012, my fiance had been in chronic pain for 3 years when they finally figured out it was because of fibroids on her uterus. And yeah, they did not want to let her get a hysterectomy. Even though it would cure constant pain, she never had any intention of having children. And she was 40 at that point. And they still didn't want to do it.
Oh, you might change your mind. You know, like how infantilizing can you make
but
a
with
woman
the
feel?
fibroids growing on the uterus, the chances that an egg could have implanted and she could have carried it were so remote anyway.
Well, let's remember all these things are decided by a bunch of fucking old white men.
Yep.
Old white men that have no idea how fucking biology works because they want to pass laws saying that they need to try to reimplant an ectopic pregnancy. An ectopic pregnancy is always fatal, and it is non-viable, and it is scientifically impossible to take the fucking ectopic pregnancy from the fallopian tubes and implant it into the uterus. It can't be done, but yet they don't want to carve out exceptions in their abortion bans for ectopic pregnancies, which are going to rupture and cause internal bleeding and kill women.
Yeah.
Fuck, it pisses me off.
All of this just reeks of religious interference.
There is an amusing thing that could come from a lot of this, which is you were saying about earlier about, they want to ban oral sex as well, which is going to make it really difficult for senators to get anywhere close to being laid.
Oral sex,
it's amazing how they seem to think that's what interns are for.
Oral sex does technically fall under the sodomy laws.
Yeah.
Yep.
But notice they won't prosecute it if it's between a man and a woman. That is literally just for them to go after the queer people. Because they're fucking bigots, they're religious zealots, and they want us to live in a fucking authoritarian theocracy.
It stinks of religion. Considering most of the unwanted pregnancies are all mainly along that span Bible belt of America, like Georgia and all them places, that southern borders, towns and things like that. Why aren't these being affected more?
Listen, if I wanted to live in an authoritarian theocracy, I would move to Utah.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing. Pregnancy rates are higher in red states. STD rates are higher in red states. Abortion rates are higher in red states. The thing these all have in common is they are less likely to have comprehensive sex ed and access to things like Planned Parenthood where they can get birth control and condoms.
Yep.
The philosophy is just say no. That's pain.
Teen pregnancies and STDs are the highest in the counties that teach abstinence-only sex ed.
If you truly cared about abortion, if you truly wanted to end abortion, banning it is not the way. We have seen time and time again whenever states pass these fucking authoritarian, gross laws that states and countries that ban abortion, abortion rates don't go down. In fact, sometimes they even go up.
Yep.
What happens is safe abortions are no longer an option and more women die. If you want to lower abortion, give free birth control and condoms and such and comprehensive sex ed. Because when those things are given, when people understand truly how sex works and how to protect themselves, and they have access to the healthcare item that is contraception and family planning, you have lower unwanted pregnancies. And when you have lower unwanted pregnancies, you have lower abortions. So if you are truly worried about saving the souls of the unborn, then fucking do something that'll actually help.
They also,
but they're also pushing
to
ban contraception.
They've also chosen to completely ignore the current statistic that the abortion rate has gone down precipitously in the last 20 years, by more than 10 or 90%. It's minuscule compared to what it was.
Yeah,
And the
and
fact
that
of the
is
matter is,
that
This is
is
how you
mostly due to that it's so much easier to get birth control.
especially since Obamacare, where it's supposed to be free if you have insurance, or low cost if you don't.
And
But
this is how you know that the ultimate goal is not to reduce the number of abortions. The ultimate goal is to control women.
it is to control women,
Yep.
and it has a eugenics component, because they've noticed that, there's they'll say, the great replacement or the browning of America. It's because white birth rates are declining and non-white birth rates are going up. They want to force more pregnancies to happen, especially among white people, because they want more white babies.
Okay,
I don't see that working.
Yeah, it's similar to what Comey Barrett said. Yeah,
Yes.
she just added a few words to make it sound better. Hey, Minnow, how
It's
you
fair.
doing,
It's
hon?
fair to note
Yeah,
that
sorry, this is something that I am super fucking passionate and angry about. Like, I had an abortion. I did. And, if they do a nationwide ban and they decide that it is murder and they prosecute it, then I'll fucking go to jail for it, because there's no statute of limitation on murder. But you know what? It doesn't matter. I am not ashamed of the fact that I had an abortion. I had just escaped an abusive marriage, and I was 84 fucking pounds. So I could barely fucking function because I had been beaten, raped, and starved. So sorry, I was nowhere in the right headspace to have a child. And I couldn't be 100% certain it wasn't his from the last time he raped me. So yeah, no, I had the procedure and I went out for sushi afterward and I felt relieved. The only thing traumatic about it was the fact that I live in a red state and they forced me to go through a transvaginal ultrasound where they took a giant wand and shoved it inside of me and made me look at the screen at the sonogram, because just doing one on the belly wasn't invasive enough for Florida. No, they have to actually assault you by inserting a foreign body into you just to try to guilt you out of having your abortion.
Oh, this is a new thing for the anti-trans shit as well. I think it's at least one of them. It might be Utah, where you've got to, all kids or students that want to be in the team. They've got they've got to get a vaginal check first.
Yeah,
That wasn't Utah. No, a couple states have tried it. Utah tried it, but the governor said this affects like 3 people. You're not passing this law. Indiana
and then
had
he was overridden the next day by the state representatives and senators.
No, Utah didn't do that. Indiana was the
Yes,
state that
Utah did do that.
Indiana was the state that did that. Trust me on that.
Utah definitely did it. I read the damn article myself.
Oh Lord.
So
But
does not Joe Biden have any say in red states then?
Well, the problem is each state is like an independent country, pretty much, because that's the way it's set up. But keep in mind, a lot of what they're going to do in these states is, like, the town where I live used to have a Planned Parenthood, and because of funding, it closed. Because a lot of people don't really understand what Planned Parenthood does. What they're going to do is replace it with something called a crisis pregnancy center if they can.
Oh, fuck
which is off.
Yeah, we get that in the UK. We have our counties and whatnot, and different jurisdictions of different political parties that have their own rules and regs, but they still abide by the word of central government, which is whoever is in charge.
Yeah, that's the difference though, because in America you've got federal law, which is the umbrella for the entire country, and then state law, which is for the states.
Yeah, and this is the way the U.S. got started. I mean, the U.S. was essentially 13 independent countries in the 18th century, and they did not want to assimilate into a federation. That's why you had the Confederation first. A lot of people don't know about the Articles of Confederation.
States' rights were a bargaining chip to get them to sign the Constitution.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yep.
Well, I think you should change the name to the Independent States of America.
Yeah, pretty much.
Quick question for the Brits here. European Union, like if they pass a law, does that supersede the countries in its law?
No, the way that European law generally has worked is that, and it was a lot of the time, the individual countries, put into it. So it's like, this is what we like, and then they figure out something that worked for everybody. But what will happen is, let's just create a hypothetical situation. So let's say the EU has a minimum standard, which is that maternity leave. So you get like 3 months off maternity leave, or let's say 6. Let's make it 6. So you get 6 months of maternity leave at half pay. Well, an individual country, as their state government, can say, actually, no, we're going to do better than that. We're going to give them full pay for 6 months. And, so you've got this sort of layered system. So that's the best way to describe
but Laura, it's still, they still decide the bare minimum.
Yeah,
they will decide 6 months of half pay. That will be it for Europe.
So basically, then, the way I'm understanding it, the closest analogy would be like the United States. The federal government would be kind of more like the European Union, where they set like the bare minimum. So like minimum wage. States can have stricter laws than the federal government, but they can't have more lax laws than the federal government.
Yeah, that's generally it.
And so then it's basically the federal government would be kind of like the European Union, and then each individual state is like its own country in the EU. It's not a perfect analogy, but
it's better to say it a little different, Kitty. That the states having a stricter law, they cannot have a stricter law if it is more. If it takes away people's rights more than the federal government does.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why Roe was the way it was, is because the federal law of the land was because of the law of privacy, or the constitutional right to privacy, is you cannot touch this. Now that that's been removed, if the government came out and said, nobody can prevent an abortion, the states cannot override that. Okay. They can't make it stricter.
Jenny has a point, but also where the European Union is concerned, every country has to agree on the law change.
Yeah.
Well, we have
the United States, that doesn't really seem to happen, does
well,
it? I mean,
every state would have to agree if we were going to change the Constitution. Like if we had a constitutional convention, it would have to be ratified by the vast majority of states for something to then become part of the Constitution. But like I was trying to find something analogous, and like I said, it wasn't a perfect analogy. But basically each state has their own laws, and state law cannot supersede federal law.
Yeah, if they want to change the federal constitution, it first requires a vote through Congress and the president approving it, and then it has to become a referendum that at least 2/3 of the states have to approve.
I was just going to say 2/3 of the states.
34 states, I
There's
believe.
also a method in that you can call a convention, but then everything becomes open season.
They could change everything.
You do not want a constitutional
Right,
convention.
right.
It would bring the end to everything.
Well, I believe the Constitution of America is a little outdated. It does need amending quite a bit. A lot of the amendments need amendment.
Well, not now, anyway.
Well, I would actually say further. I think that there's two problems that America has got now. You've got as we've seen, lately, is the Supreme Court is out of touch with the rest of the sentiment of the nation.
Well, that was by design. That was by the fascists stacking it in your favor. Yeah.
Yes.
Trump.
But what I'm trying to say is that, so what it illustrates is option one is they need to change the system so that they can serve for, let's say, 10 years, but no more. Or throw out the Constitution and make yourselves a new one.
Well, we don't need to do that because we do have the amendment.
now.
You see, that's the problem, though, because you've got a small amount of, is it 11 people on the Supreme Court?
No,
Nine.
9.
Sorry, yeah, you're right. It's 9 people who have to interpret what a bunch of people from the 18th century thought about something that applies today. So what would they have to do with hacking?
If they want to,
computers.
if they want to follow
What
suit,
have they
with
got
their-
to say
with their
about
so-called- with
what
their
have they got to
so-called
say
lust
about
for-
using computers and cars and smog and all these sorts of things that are that didn't even exist in the time that they were even alive.
And you know what else is fun? You've got a lot of people yelling about this isn't written into the Constitution. This right isn't written into the Constitution. Guess what else isn't written into the Constitution? Any guesses? Any 1, 2, 3, 4,
Computers,
5,
cars.
Any guesses? Are there any guesses of what's not written into the Constitution?
Lots and lots
Abortion.
and lots of stuff. Just say it.
Judicial review.
Yes, Diana. Yes.
Supreme Court was not set up to review legislation. That became de facto standard with Marbury versus Madison in 1803.
Now,
Right,
the other
I
thing that the
categories no too.
the hypocrisy of the right-wing movement right now is that they say everything in the Constitution needs to harken back to older days. All right, fine. Excuse me. The number of the people in the Supreme Court is 9. It was set to 9 because at that time there were 9 federal district courts. Today there are 13. If they want to genuinely keep up with that which is laid in our history, then they need to have 13 justices. One
Laura,
for
I
each
It
district.
was originally set to 7, wasn't it?
Laura, I think
No, why it's at 9 right now? That's my point. Is why
I
it's at
thought
9.
it was expanded to 9. Okay, I'm wrong. on
We
that
have a
one.
Well, it
similar.
may have been, but the
It was.
reason it's 9 is because of that.
Right. It was
I-
set. Well, originally, I think it was like 3 or 5, and then it was expanded to 7, and then it was expanded to 9, 1 for each of the district courts, as Jenny was saying. And so, yes, we
Okay,
should have
okay.
13.
Okay. Yep.
if I may go back to Laura's point for a second here, I think there's something she's missing about American society right now, and that's that we can't agree on anything. I think you're forgetting the Constitution is actually written so it can be amended. The Founding Fathers did not intend it to be interpreted literally like they want to interpret the Bible.
Well, it's
But
interpreted
this
like
is-
the Bible,
this
as
is-
far as I'm concerned.
The problem is this
We-
is what's going on though, because
We-
it's like you've literally got I've forgotten his name now, the guy that decided that abortion should be reviewed should be banned and everything else should be reviewed.
Well,
Alito.
right now,
And actually,
at this point, there is no reason for the Democrats not to eliminate the filibuster and expand the Supreme Court. We've got 13 judicial districts. It would make sense to have 13 judges on it. But there's no reason for the Democrats not to do both of those things, because you know damn fucking well as soon as the Republicans have a majority, they're going to do it since the ideas have been made public.
Yeah. Huh.
not to mention, there's another problem with originalist thought on the Constitution. The 10th Amendment specifically states that certain rights not enumerated in the Constitution belong to the people. And the right to privacy was one of those.
And what happened to freedom of the people for the pursuit, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? I'm sorry, stripping
Declaration.
away.
The Constitution does not use the word privacy because the word privacy wasn't in common use in the 18th century. Okay,
I'm just pointing
people
out-
never said privacy. What they said was liberty.
And that's what I'm saying.
Property.
Privacy would fall under liberty because it is your personal liberty for bodily autonomy, privacy,
Exactly.
What I am
And I'm
trying
sorry,
to point
like, fucking, like, getting between a woman and her doctor and dealing with the abortion stuff, how is that not a Fourth Amendment violation? Like, unreasonable search and seizure your medical records, getting into your fucking business, like how is it not?
But what I'm trying to point out is that courts have consistently ruled that we have these rights, and just overturning them because it's not in the Constitution doesn't even fit what the Constitution says. So originalism should
Right,
be
but
thrown out.
law is like 80% precedent, and the precedent that they went after is that they said that Roe versus Wade, the right to privacy, the concept of it, is not written deeply into our history, meaning it doesn't go back to the beginning or near to the beginning. And so therefore it is not a proper thing to have in the Constitution because their concept of originality, originalist thinking. If they're going to use that, then you have to hang them with their own tool.
But it's also not what the founding fathers wanted. They specifically put out the amendment process because they knew things would change.
Yeah, well,
It was meant to be a living document that changed with the times.
Following the founding fathers is what got us into the horrible mess to begin with.
And unfortunately, it's not keeping up with the times. The times are that the people, in general, are in favour, including the mass majority of, a majority of women as well,
They
are
were
in favour of abortion and LGBT rights, etc., etc.
They were the founding fathers.
But Jenny Jenny has a point. Jenny has a small point. All you girls need to do what Jenny says to save you burning your bras all over again. To get some rights back.
Never actually burned the bras. Go ahead.
You know what I mean. Just to get your rights back, because they're just stripping away women's rights for no reason whatsoever.
Control.
They do have a reason.
It reeks of religion.
They have a reason. They don't have our reason. Their reason is they want control. It's part of their religion.
Well, this is it. And to say that, this is the thing. This is, America's no different. The Republic's no different than whoever's in charge, whatever politics is in charge of all these laws of stripping away women's rights to choose, over their own bodies, basically no different than the Taliban.
Oh yeah.
Hey, no problem. No problem, Purple. It's just that whatever it is pissed me off there. It's too bad I can't remove the entire line.
Because we do have a Taliban here in this country.
Oh,
We have
yeah,
the Christian
absolutely.
Taliban, and it's the Republican Party.
No, it's the Southern Baptist Convention.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, originally the Southern Baptist Convention was fine with abortion. They understood that it was a medical procedure and it was basically a necessary evil. When civil rights happened, when they realized that they couldn't, use Jim Crow laws and, keeping Black and brown people down any longer as platforms, then they switched their horse to a different cart, and that cart was the abortion thing. If you go far enough back in the dogma and doctrine of the Southern Baptist Convention, they used to not care about abortion. It wasn't until Black and brown people had, the civil rights movement, and women also had their civil rights movement where they no longer had to have a checking account or credit card in their husband's name, and that they couldn't be discriminated against, for employment purposes. And so they switched tactics.
Kitty is 100% correct.
Yeah.
So this is actually a retaliation against Black Lives Matter, sort of.
No, this is a retaliation against their religion. We're going against religion. That's what they're about. But the Southern Baptist Convention was approached by the Republican Party, because they recognize that if you were to mobilize this population, which already started to feel most of the same things they did regarding race, that we could turn them into a mass block of voting that would follow us to the end of time. And they have succeeded in that. And this has been a plan that has been developing since the 1980s.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan was instrumental there.
This actually started.
Reagan was a puppet.
I just want to point out this is the Southern strategy, which was Nixon's advisor. So it's earlier than 1980s.
No, the Southern strategy was, well, yes, you're right. I won't go debate that, but it's little.
Yeah, the Southern strategy started in the 60s.
And the Southern strategy was basically, originally the Republicans were the Progressive Party and the Democrats were the Southern Regressive Racist Party.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
things started to change and shift. So the Southern strategy was basically, hey, the Republicans that were conservative, racist, and regressive were like, hey, we're racist and regressive. These people down in the South are racist and regressive. So let's recruit them to our cause by using race and regressive policies in order to convince them. And that's
But
when the
she's
shift
also-
happens. So technically, when the Republicans say, oh, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, yes, he was. But that was back when the Republican Party was more or less equivalent to the Democratic Party of today. It was before the switch.
He was also
she's
one of the
al-
ones who pushed back against the court.
Yes, he absolutely did. The Supreme Court said that, you know, his basically freeing of the slaves was unconstitutional and he can't do it. And he said, fucking bet, eat my dick. And then he went and did the Emancipation Proclamation. He just completely ignored the Supreme Court.
But she's also right about one thing. The moral majority is what she's trying to refer to was a Reagan addendum to the Southern strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But the Christian right has never been the silent majority in this country. They are actually a rather vocal minority, because one thing you're going to learn if you're in these circles is that the people who are the most vocal aren't necessarily representative of people's opinions. They're just simply the loudest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And continue back with your ranting, because this is something where I think people most affected need to speak.
I appreciate that. Like, I didn't mean like if I cut you off at any point, like there's, I think, a slight delay, and you're also very quiet. So apologies, not trying to be rude, but this is like something that it's got me real fired up. So like if I just fucking go off, like apologies.
I'm not happy about what happened. Sorry,
Where's my
Lavender.
phone? Where did I put my phone?
All right.
I also have to admit, back in the day, probably 2015, when Trump was slagging every politician off, and I thought, oh, he's a breath of fresh air. He don't care. And then through my years of Twitter and just basically slagging off Trump because he's probably one of the stupidest people on the planet.
Here's the thing.
Oh,
with
you're
Trump.
so kind.
Well, I did support him once upon a time. I'm ashamed to say I did support him and think, wow, yeah, he's a breath of fresh air.
You like a bullfool.
And here's the thing. When he was campaigning as a populist. Basically, we're going to do healthcare for everybody, and it's going to cost way less. Or, we got to negotiate drug prices, lower prescription drug prices. We got to, he was going off on all these things that are actual issues that impact the vast majority of Americans, because more than half of Americans live, at or below the poverty line.
Yes, Kitty, and he did not do anything he promised. And the healthcare
it was all
system,
bullshit.
He basically, because I've got right into American politics, and the thing that astounds me, and I'm totally baffled by it, is that half the Republican politicians know nothing about politics. They've just got big mouths. Your Lauren Boebert and your Matt Getz and people like that.
Well, those people are a recent development, yeah.
But politicians here in Britain usually do a university course on politics. There you just need to have a big mouth and some money.
Well, as Diana was saying, until recently, the norm
Truly is
was
the land
that
of the free.
Yeah, the norm was that to be a politician, to get up to the level of a federal office or generally even a state legislature, it was generally all people who had been lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, that's a joke I used to make, that a lawyer was just the larval stage of a politician.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But these people aren't even lawyers now. Look at Lauren Boebert. She didn't even get out of grade school, did she?
Well, she got what? A
She had not
replacement high
even-
school diploma a couple months before
Yeah.
she was elected, right?
When
Listen,
she
the
was
reason-
elected, she did not even have a high school diploma. She finished her GED in office.
Oh, okay.
And she posted a post on Twitter today that just said Jesus is Lord.
Well, she's a piece of shit.
The reason-
Well, you know
She's
that.
just in the last few days come out with this theocratic argumentation, because she's going on about the church-state separation is stupid and the whole bit. Church should guide government.
Okay,
Yeah.
they can pay taxes.
Say again,
Well,
Huss?
All right, I
It's
agree.
Couldn't
obviously
pay
not
taxes.
stupid because of what it's done to America. It's literally retarded America back to the 19th century, basically.
I agree with you that Lauren Boebert is bad, but we know we're in real trouble when she's still more sensible than Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, there's another one. There's another Republican that just. I mean, this
Yeah,
is.
well, and that's the thing, that the way our
I actually
politics
feel
is
sorry
going.
for you guys that are going through this.
Well,
I
yeah,
want to run away, but there's nobody that wants me. I mean, I'm old, I'm sick, I'm poor.
Diana, you can come live with me in the UK. I'll look after you. Got a room here. You can have all your computers set up. You can be you.
yeah, well, that's the way our politics have gone. You know, I mean, Trump got elected because he was a reality TV star.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just, all you have to be is someone that people recognize. You have the name recognition, you get elected, and qualifications don't matter at all.
I mean, to be fair,
Maybe.
Ronald Reagan was the same thing. He was just a puppet for the corporations. He was a well-known and beloved actor that was handsome and charismatic, and the corporations played him like a fiddle, and he did whatever they
Yes, they
fucking
did.
wanted.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
And here in
Ronald
the UK, we
Reagan.
have a thing called spitting image. Where he used to, where I don't know if you've heard of spitting image at all.
I know spitting image.
Well, Ronald Reagan of a night when he was in bed with Nancy, he used to open his head up and take his brain out, and put it in a glass next to the bed,
Yeah.
like false teeth. It's just stuff like that. But it
Robin-
was the Thatcher years as well, which we
Robin
were-
Williams said that Reagan was Disney's last wish. Make me a president.
Ronald Reagan,
Exactly.
Donald Trump, Fred Grandy, Gopher on Love Boat, Sonny Bono.
Ox the
The
slogan God-
Republicans yell at the Democrats because we support celebrities.
Sonny Bono. What shares X?
Yeah, you know, I hate to put this idea out there, but I have to say, if one of the Kardashians ran for office, they'd probably get elected.
Yeah.
God damn it!
don't
You
do that to me.
Unfortunately,
There's the time space.
Schwarzenegger got in, didn't he?
Unfortunately-
California.
Okay, Porpoise is trying to
Unfortunately,
get something in here.
Clint.
Yeah, unfortunately, it would appear that a lot of America is run by the Cardassians.
Okay, give
Star Trek reference. there.
Porpoise a chance to talk here.
Ox, the slogan "In God We Trust" wasn't added until 1954 by a Pennsylvania governor, actually, who proposed it. There's a bridge in my hometown named after him. And I would like to point out that Howard Stern has announced that he should run for president now because he thinks he's the only one that can fix the Republican Party. And sadly, he may be right.
Honestly, like, here's the thing. As far as the Kardashians go, like, Kim is kind of an entitled twat. Like, let's be real. Like, the whole, don't be lazy, get up and work. Like,
whole
she was
family
born
is.
with a silver spoon and she
In her
had
ass.
every advantage. Like, fuck that. She has no idea what it's like to actually struggle, suffer, and really have to work just to get by, because she always had that fucking golden parachute of coming from a family with money. That aside, as far as on social issues, if she were to run for president, it wouldn't be as bad, considering the fact that she has been advocating for judicial reform and releasing, people from prison that really shouldn't be in prison. And she's done more than a lot of politicians in that vein.
Let's also make one note about Kim Kardashian. She's currently going around saying that and media is helping her out by repeating it, that she's going to law school. Did y'all hear that?
No, it
She's
isn't.
not going to law school. She's auditing a few law courses.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I had heard, people tweeting out that she was going to law school, and I had heard that there was something fishy about it, but I didn't know the whole story there.
I mean, technically she's correct. She's going to law school, but she's not getting any grades.
Well, their father, who made her famous, was a lawyer. So
Well, he's the guy who got OJ off.
he's the guy who got OJ off, yeah.
Well, him and
Yeah,
Johnny
that-
Cochran.
Well, yeah,
reminds
but he was the
me-
one that walked out with the evidence.
That reminds me
From
of
OJ's
Jason
house.
Burns, who used to claim that he had a degree in theology. In fact, he had a degree in pastoral studies from seminary, but it was pastoral studies and theology. So the theology was the minor, not the major. And all pastoral studies is priest training.
Which Kardashian was that who recently started her makeup company and is now technically a billionaire?
Kylie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
Kylie
the only one who's
Jenner.
actually done anything.
Jenny, yeah.
Speaking of which, can we please stop putting up Caitlyn Jenner as a model of like what it's like to be trans in this country?
She's a
She's
fucking
a
murderer.
piece
She
of
killed
shit.
somebody and got off with it because she's got money. So fuck
She-
her.
Also, as far as
No,
trans
thank
go,
you.
she's a sellout.
Laverne Cox was a much better spokesperson.
She's a fucking
Oh, I love
Republican.
Laverne Cox. And I mean, fucking Caitlyn Jenner is a true scum Republican. Like, fuck her.
And Janet Mock.
And here's the thing. I feel confident in saying that. And like, I know there are some people that say, oh, you don't support Caitlyn Jenner, you're transphobic. No, it has nothing to do with the fact that she's a trans woman. I acknowledge that. And I am happy for her that she is living her best life. That doesn't change the fact of the matter that she is advocating for and propping up policies that harm other trans individuals and harm everybody else.
Yeah.
Because she is a Republican and she supports fucking trans sports bans. So no, fuck off with
Hey,
that.
let's adopt that
They
Republican
call
tactic.
themselves liberals.
Excuse me. Let's adopt that Republican tactic and instead of calling her transgender, call her a trino, trans in name only.
I like it.
Well, that would not
The
be my call to
whole-
make, but
whole-
I like it.
The whole transgender people in sports thing is just transphobia under the guise of fairness. They don't watch sports. They don't take part in these things. It's just like, because
Well-
they're this, therefore that. And, the evidence isn't there for that. There isn't,
That's why Caitlyn Jenner is the worst hypocrite, because as a man, he became famous for being a sports celebrity
Mhm.
and is transgender. And despite all the BS about transgender sports, is still apparently into golfing, which technically they call a sport. And, as far as competition level, though, after transitioning, she plays from the women's tees.
Can someone do me a favor and explain why Porpoise just guffawed, nearly swallowed her tongue?
Go ahead, Porpoise.
Uh-oh.
No, that would have to explain my sense of humor and something she said. Just there is something wrong with.
Can
go
you
ahead, you're
vault
funny.
higher than Bruce Jenner? Sorry, Caitlyn Jenner. Can you vault higher than her?
I don't think it matters. What I think the problem is with
does.
people like Caitlyn Jenner is people assume that she's an athlete, therefore she must know about sports. It's like this is not the relevant area here. People study these things. It's sports medicine experts that should be determining this. And a lot of people arguing about it with Twitter, it's like expect me to be a sports medicine expert except one study that just agrees with them. It's like, and I've had to point out to them, it's like, I probably have more biology than you do after taking a biology 101 course in college recently because you never learned anything beyond 8th grade biology.
We need to
I
start. Porpoise is absolutely correct. We need to deal with these people by being as harsh as they are. Caitlyn Jenner is not a trans expert. She's a jock. Okay?
A
I thought you were
jock.
laughing at calling it
perfect
the golf
word,
a sport.
jock.
Okay, I think Purpose hadn't quite finished there.
Yeah, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just sick of it. It's like, I'm not an expert either. It's like, I don't want to talk about it. You just want to bludgeon me and make my life miserable for a while. It's like, if you don't mind, I'm just going to block you now, and you can go off and be wrong somewhere else. I mean, I've had to block a lot of people on Twitter just for the sake of my mental health lately. So
I have something to say. So here's the deal. Sports aren't fair to begin with. Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive, like he has inherent biological advantages just the way he was born. The fact of the matter is we don't categorize sports to make it fair. Some do with weight classes, but we don't go by skill level. We just gender it. You've got the men and the women. And other than like boxing, where you do have like different weight categories in wrestling, they don't. So you could have two people that are cisgendered, and one of them is better than the other just by the fact of their biology.
Exactly.
I
So
have
it's stupid
to.
anyway.
I have to take somewhat of a counter to that, though. It's my feeling that a transgender woman can have serious advantages over a cis woman if she's transgender and has not had HRT long enough. And I don't know, I would have to find a research study that deals with it, but I personally believe for my anecdotal case is surgery. That surgery makes a big difference in whether or not you're on equal footing. Okay. Like this Leah Thomas. Now I don't know for sure, but I thought I just read the other day
she's
discussing her that she's only been on HRT for a year.
Wait,
I don't think that's long enough. Okay, now it's just my opinion, but
I also think maybe something that needs to be studied more is if you have sports with a significant strength training component like swimming or weightlifting, that maybe more study needs to be done there, because weightlifting will reduce some of the effects of long-term HRT.
Well, that could be, you can be anything, really. You can be any sport. I mean, if you look at male tennis players, they can serve a ball at 130 miles an hour, where the female will get nowhere near that. And if you reverse the roles,
one of the elements.
The only way I quell this argument is when a friend says to me, "Oh, it's trans." It doesn't work when it's a trans female. You know, she can serve just as fast as a man. And when I say, "You can beat her," I'll just say, "Can you beat her?"
Tennis,
they say, "Well, no." I said, "Well, shut the fuck up then. You haven't got a clue about what they're going through." That's my only relationship. But there is a difference. There will always be a difference.
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I was wrong about the whole weight training thing. I'm not an expert. But a lot of
Jenny,
people.
Well, there's obvious. Yes, technically it's anecdotal, but there's obvious evidence in some of the women bodybuilders who come out and are just absolutely incredibly bulky and tough and strong and scary. They're so tough and big.
The problem is,
I know females that can lift more than me. I've seen them.
I'm sure they're
as muscly as anything.
The problem is
But is it true that like post-op,
I think
you lose all that strength?
Yeah. Okay. Let Kitty get in here.
Well,
so
one of the things that happens is that every 3 months
Laura,
you replace.
Kitty had been trying to get in.
It's okay. It was a quick thing I needed to say anyway. And I said the problem is trans people in sport is a nuanced conversation, and we as a species are apparently allergic to nuance, because we can have a conversation of, okay, how long, should a person be on HRT before they're allowed to compete, or like, do they need surgery or not? Like, what do the studies say? Like, it's not just an all or nothing, but a blanket ban is just stupid and discriminatory.
Yeah. And this is what I was trying to say. About every 3 months, you replace the cells in your body, muscle cells in particular. So, and the reason why it's the testosterone. So I'm vague on it because I don't know the nuance in it, but effectively, testosterone is what gives the strength. That something along the lines of it oxygenates the blood better, and therefore the blood gets to the cells and are able to propagate.
It allows the muscle tissue to bulk up.
Yeah. So for someone who has low testosterone, then they have to do more work to get the same level of muscle mass. Now I can speak from my own experience. I've now been on HRT for exactly a year, last week. And I found that my strength has halved, that getting up from crouching down something, takes a lot more strain than it used to. I have to use the table or whatever it is to lift myself up. My legs just don't do it enough on their own anymore. So now the only way I think someone like me might have a sporting advantage is just the fact that I'm tall and that maybe my strides are longer. But other than that, there's really no difference.
And that's not a trans exclusive thing. There are plenty of, women that were, assigned female at birth that are tall. I mean, there are women that are over 6 feet tall. So they would have the exact same biological advantage of maybe a longer stride and larger frame as you. So it's a moot point because you're not going to stop a tall person from competing just because they're tall.
I just need to answer that. There's also variation as well. It's weightlifting. Well, if someone's taller, then they have to do a lot more reaching down, which means that there's more strain. It's the leverage point basically.
Jenny, did you
it takes
see
more effort to move it.
Jenny, did you see the David Worley video? I think that you'd commented on that before.
I was commenting on Professor Dave. Dave Worley is a different person. And Dave Worley needed to put something like that out because David Worley made some statements that were highly transphobic a couple of years ago, and he needed to learn and revise his position.
Okay, but I do feel that Dave Worley deserves some credit, because he did come back and he did say he had been ill-informed and he changed a lot of his positions.
Mm-hmm.
And Professor Dave's video was good, but he still got a few things wrong. I think Forrest Valkai had a better video discussing those topics.
Yeah, Professor Dave's was generally good until he got to the part about trans people in sports. He needed to do more research in that area.
My favorite part about Professor Dave's video is that he took the time to discuss the concept of people generally think there's sexuality or sex and gender, that they're separate. And he explained how gender is itself subdivided into biological gender and social gender. And they work together to make the whole person.
Anyway, he meant well.
And that, I think, was sorely needed. People don't understand that. Gender is innate. There's portions of it are innate. You have leanings one way or the other. You just do.
Okay, give Porpoise a chance again. I think Porpoise has a bit of a delay, so it's harder for her to get in here.
Yeah, I'm on Wi-Fi. I think he also made a mistake saying gender isn't a social construct, and he missed how it's defined in certain areas, but he's an organic chemist, so I don't think it was intentional. He probably just wasn't aware anthropology and sociology do define gender as purely as a social construct.
I heard him say that, but I think that he was referring to it as the today's generalized concept, because then he went into it and explained it in the terms of gender. It's as a global thing being different than sex, but that it is social and biological.
But he was saying they shouldn't use it this way, and sociology and anthropology usually aren't concerned with the neurochemistry of it. or the neurobiology, because they'll just define it this way. It's just an error. It's like he was just saying that because it's defined this way where I work, it's always defined this way. It's an easy enough mistake to make, but it's something you need to watch out for.
Yeah, not allowing that the same term is used in different ways in different fields of study.
Oh yeah. I mean, and this is one of the things that is very common. I mean, if we use the word love, how it has so many meanings. The way that you love a sibling is the way different to the way you love your parents or a partner or a sports team. You know, they're all, I love these things, but each one has a different meaning behind them. Again, the nuance.
I think they try to be level the playing field as much as possible in sports, but people are always going to have an advantage. It's like what people is. There are two things going on. One is transphobia, but the other thing is people want as level a playing field as possible. Now, if they would just apply that to, like, I don't know, life in general and just not have so many policies designed to hurt poor people, that'd be great. But that's why Europe in general has fewer.
Well, I'd like to elaborate on William of Wykeham's quote was "Maneth maketh man."
William of Wickham?
Yeah, well, he was the guy who said "Manners maketh man."
Oh, manners make the man. Okay.
Manners maketh the man.
Yeah, well, that's part of the problem we're having with our politics now is that.
Well, my elaboration is
well, the founding fathers of the U.S.
a man or a woman.
Yeah, the founding fathers of the U.S. had the assumption that no one would ever be able to obtain a high office unless they were a gentleman. We can see that that's not working now.
Yeah, you've got people like Matt Gaetz who stand accused of sex trafficking a minor across state lines. You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, who harassed and followed a survivor of the Parkland, Florida school shooting, literally chasing him down the street and harassing this poor boy. You've got Lauren Boebert, who, wants to control what women do with their bodies and shame people and wants to push for a Christian theocracy, but allegedly she worked as a call girl and actually serviced Ted Cruz, which, ew.
There's no allegedly to that. There's web pages of her.
I'm just saying allegedly for legal reasons.
Listen,
because I don't want that bitch to sue me.
If you have a chance to sleep with a Zodiac killer, aren't you going to take it?
No. Just like I would not sleep with Trump for $1 million fucking dollars. I mean, it'd probably be over in 30 seconds, but I don't think I could do it. 100 million maybe, because that'd set me and everybody I know up for life. But he's not good for it. Like, the man's broke.
Yeah, I tell him put it on the dresser before.
Right? I take payment up front. Like, I got no problem with being a sex worker. Hell, before my disability, I had planned on paying for medical school as a stripper because, I mean, I was naturally endowed and had a background in dance and gymnastics. So, I could have learned to pole dance with the best of them.
Which is kind of sad, really. That's like, this is a way to get out of my problems.
Also,
no,
Ted
you're
Cruz
right,
is not the Zodiac killer. Just in case anyone takes me seriously on that, Ted Cruz was born the year after the Zodiac killer stopped.
I mean, to be fair, he could be the reincarnation of the Zodiac killer. Can't prove that. That's unfalsifiable. So
you also can't prove that next year he'll invent a time machine.
That's also unfalsifiable. So you never know.
The politician who had the either Mexican or Cuban gardener that suddenly became his son, his adopted son, after something he said, some racist comment he made. Suddenly his gardener or his housekeeper or someone who was Mexican or Cuban was suddenly his adopted son. Is that Ted Cruz or is that Mike Getz?
I have no idea.
I believe
Well,
the
this is-
pronunciation is Gates.
Yeah, it's Gates, like a gate, you know?
Gates.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gates.
He might. I think he might be pronouncing it as a get just because it's a British insult.
Fair.
All right.
That's fair.
Gates.
But yeah, no, he's
Isn't that guy about to
representative in my
disappear up
state.
his own arse anyway? So it doesn't really matter what his name is.
Okay, you know,
Not wrong.
and they really missed it. It's like they've been calling every scandal Gate, so why wasn't it Gates Gate?
Technically, it was in some places. Just like the Elon Musk stuff was Elongate, which he said, if I'm ever in a scandal, I want it to be called Elongate. And, you know, that was like a few months before the scandal came out. And then, like, he comes out and says he's going to vote Republican the day before the article, or like a couple days before. And there's an email trail showing that the article that came out about his credible sexual harassment claim of wanting an erotic massage and promising a woman a horse if she did on one of his planes. Yeah, he knew about the article, and then he came out saying, you know, they're going to come after me because I'm voting Republican. It's gross.
Yeah, well, when you've got
Yeah.
more money than the whole world combined, you're going to get bored and just stop being a prick.
You know what? There's
Elon Musk.
been this wonderful thing that's happened in the last few weeks, which is where his daughter doesn't want anything to do with the richest guy on the planet.
Yeah,
Who's
that's
trans?
actually
Which is saying a lot. You know, it's like, okay, I can just like put him mostly out of my life and just sort of like
Wait.
phone him up once or twice a year and still inherit billions of dollars in the future, or he's a piece of shit and I don't want anything to do with him, and I'd rather have nothing than anything to do
Yeah,
with him.
I know.
that's actually not so recent. That's about the last 2 years. His daughter has been making comments that have been separating her from him.
Yeah,
I know it was reported as his daughter, but isn't she like a trans man?
She's trans, yeah. Oh, I thought it was sorry. I thought it was a M2F.
I'm asking for clarification because I thought she was a trans man.
I'm going to assume it's male to female because it was in Pink News, and Pink News is more likely to use the correct pronouns based upon who they are or how they present themselves now.
But it does have a weird problem with TERFs in its comment section.
Well, all these
Elon Musk's
philanthropists are exactly the
transgender
same.
daughter files to change her name, dropping Musk. So yeah, she would be the proper pronouns.
Okay.
Yeah. And basically, what it comes down to, mum and dad separated, and now I don't want anything to do with dad. I'm going to stay with mum, so I'm going to take her surname instead.
I just want to point out that the real heroes of the 21st century so far are all the engineers Elon Musk has employed.
And Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, neither of them are the richest man to ever live. They may be the richest man alive now, but neither are the richest to ever live. That title goes to an African king named Mansa Musa, who literally had so much gold and wealth that when he went into a town, like on a visit, he was handing out gold so much he tanked the entire country's economy.
Well, I do remember one of the richest people in Rome before Augustus took the throne as the emperor, owned a private
and then
fire
white people ruined it.
And then Augustus got so fed up because the guy would argue with people whose building was burning down until he got the good price that he set up a public fire brigade.
Yeah, but you guys are taking inflation and the economy into account, where gold back then was probably worth not worth that much as it is now. But you've got to look at, in the 90s, Bill Gates was going to be the world's first trillionaire, wasn't he? In the 90s, and he gave his fortune away to charity,
Well-
to Africa, a lot of it to charity, and became a philanthropist. Well, he became a whatever he is now, just some sort of still making serious amounts of
A
money.
divorced
weirdo.
philanthropist whose
A
wife
divorced
left him
philanthropist.
because of his ties with Jeffrey Epstein.
Philanthropist or philanderer?
Both.
Yeah, well, this is it. Can you call Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk philanthropist? I mean, what does Jeff Bezos do? His money goes to, basically getting his fellow philanthropists a little ride in space. And
Okay, but
of
there's another
course,
thing about Bill Gates that you're forgetting. COVID is continuing to be a problem because
Yeah.
third world countries aren't getting vaccinations. So new strains are coming. And Bill Gates had a hand in that because the AstraZeneca vaccine, that was developed by Oxford. And it was supposed to be open source where anybody with the facilities could make it. But Bill Gates went in there with a fucking grant and convinced them to sell it to AstraZeneca, which he owns stock in.
Well, to be fair, Bill Gates made his money by betraying open source values and principles because that's how Microsoft and even Apple were able to get started and have their monopoly.
Yes,
Because the idea
that's true.
But I think there is a valid argument involving something about the Qatar incident after the polio
Apple
vaccine.
don't
that I
have a
think-
monopoly, do they?
I think my blame would go to the people who accepted the bullying from him, that they actually believed whatever he was saying and they took the deal.
Apple has a monopoly.
Not in offering the deal. There's a crime in
Research
taking.
hospitals need
Well, no,
grants.
they're a
That's how
company
they
that sells
survive.
Technology, like any other company that sells technology. It's not a
Apple
monopoly.
Apple
They don't
has a
own
monopoly.
mobile phones. They don't own iPads. They don't.
All right, please.
They basically
Please let
sell
me explain.
the iOS software. Yeah.
Apple has a monopoly on Apple products. If you want to put new hardware in your Mac, you have to buy it from Apple-approved sources.
Well,
But
you
the
say-
idea
I mean,
of
it's the same with a lot of
That's not a
companies. If you
monopoly.
that's not monopoly. That's not a
The idea-
monopoly.
please stop.
A monopoly is a company that had sole rights to all technology
Please stop.
and would
The
not
idea
allow anyone else to use it.
Can you
The
let her
idea-
finish?
Yeah, let Purpose finish.
The idea of privatized software, private source software, was not in existence during the 70s until Steve Jobs and Bill Gates decided that they were illegally stealing code, and they sent around a letter. But if you want to upgrade your Apple hardware, you need to buy it from Apple-approved sources.
Yes,
Yeah,
and you know why they do that? Because they hold these manufacturers to a certain set of standards so that when you plug something in, it actually works. And it doesn't act like overnight it changes your settings for your sound on your StreamYards or your Zoom application, that it actually works when you plug it in, period.
It has,
Also,
It has
it can never be a monopoly because there's an alternative.
all right, let's get off of that.
Jenny, you're saying so that doesn't suddenly change your settings. Every time Windows does an update, it fucks up my settings.
Yeah.
are
I agree with Peps.
There are advantages to the way Apple does it, but it also means that if you just want to go and buy a lower priced graphics card that might actually work better, you can't do it. The
There's
reason why
lots of different options. There's dozens of options.
But it voids your warranty.
No, it doesn't.
If you put anything in there and that
No, it
is
doesn't.
not, yeah, it does. I've had it
They
happen.
have no, they don't. They have open slots, and the slots are intended for taking different cards of different types, just like a PC.
I have an Amazon pad, and there's no. You can download Google Play Store, and that just turns it into an Android device rather than an Amazon device.
Maybe
And
in the
there's
UK,
nothing that voids
because
that
of-
warranty at all.
Well, the
it
UK
might be
is also
possible in the UK because they have different laws about, Apple's anti-competitiveness and, not allowing other software on their devices, and everything has to go through the Apple Store and Apple Pay, like their
Well,
payment
no,
processor.
Apple, you can have other operating. I can't say
What's
operating systems, but you can have other stuff on Apple.
what
it's
software
not-
are you? What
Well, it's not
software
a
are you using?
monopoly. never will be a monopoly
yes,
because
wrong
there's
word.
alternatives.
It was the wrong word. Fine.
Right.
But the problem is Apple does have an anti-competitive nature. It did have a near monopoly on schools and the publishing industry during the 80s and early 90s. There's no debating that. Microsoft had a near monopoly on operating systems and even hypocritically said their people had an option because they could use Linux after fighting Linux for years. And the problem is Bill Gates and Steve Jobs were not saints. They actually went after what were the open source practices that would later coalesce into the open source movement that would give us things like Linux.
Well, none of them are saints, are they? They've all got an agenda.
There's also the fact that the social media companies and, the tech giants, while not technically monopolies, they are incredibly anti-competitive by not letting smaller things, grow. They stifle innovation because they do have such a stranglehold on the market. Same thing with power companies in the United States and cable TV providers. In your area, you might have one that services your area. If you're lucky, maybe two, and they work together to jack up prices. So you're paying more because they know that, well, we're the only game in town. What else are you gonna do?
I mean, Facebook hacks your password, and you have to basically open a new account just so it makes their site look bigger.
Yep, and then you have
many times.
Then you have the bloatware in your devices that they try to force you to use these things. Like my cell phone has Facebook installed, and I can't even remove it.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah,
not to mention
Facebook has got a deal with a lot of mobile phone companies or a lot of providers.
Do you have an Android? Sorry, go ahead. Finish.
Yeah, you have to have. If you've got an Android device, you need to have Facebook on it.
All right. Yep. Do you have an Android? Do you have an Android or an iOS device? Purple.
It's an Android.
All right. Depending on the phone, you may be able to root it, which will allow you to take those apps off, but it's a very difficult process.
Makes me crazy that you buy one of those Androids or that other phone operating system, and then you have to use software just for them to operate on it.
Well, you can also make your own Linux phone if you're so inclined, but even I wouldn't do that.
Well, for decades, that personal information is the biggest commodity on the planet.
Yeah.
Well, we need to regulate that better, and we're not going to do that.
It needs to be regulated because when you
I think Adam Conover put it best. That if a service is free, you are the product.
And I love Adam Conover. He's great.
I do not try.
And if you click, who reads the 50 pages of terms and conditions of any site like Twitter, Facebook, or TikTok, or any of them? And each and every one of them allow them to use your microphone and camera at their own will.
Okay. The only thing they get less is the Bible.
That porpoise.
I just have a question. Sorry, I have a question that's been bugging me for a while. How are you running Android device software on your Apple device? Because that might involve some software I don't know, because the APK and the Apple ecosystem are different, and there has to be some software translating them. I know you can sideload apps on both, which needs to be far more open on Apple than it is, and it's still a pain on Android devices. But I'm just curious how you're doing that.
Are you asking me?
Are you asking me?
Asking Dog.
No, I said an Amazon device, not an Apple device.
No. Oh, that's because it is Android.
Amazon device.
It is Android. It's just its own variant of Android.
Yeah, it's a variant of Android, but you can get to use the usual Android just by downloading Google Play.
Yeah, and it has its own app.
That's what I was saying about the monopolizing of, but it still doesn't make a monopoly.
Well, there is a problem.
Because it has its own software.
We are past that topic. There is still a problem with the way the Play stores are done that I disagree with. Like, I think you should be able to just go out and download a piece of software on the internet and download it onto your phone if you want, rather than having to go into settings
Oh,
and turn on
absolutely.
like satellite apps. Or for the Apple, you have to use iTunes and load it from your computer.
Absolutely. I
Or
believe
hack
the
your
internet
phone
should be safe.
and jailbreak
Should
it.
be the most safest place on planet Earth. But you're getting groomed children. I mean, the high side of children being groomed is the internet pulls out the paedophile, more paedophiles than you could have 30 years ago.
In the interest of us, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
But the downside of it is that you're an open book. Your heart is on your sleeve on the internet. There's nothing. There's no. My little avatar of a dog there in a Pope outfit makes no difference whatsoever. If anyone wanted to dig into this video, could find out who I am, what I am, where I live, everything. If they wanted to, it doesn't take anything to do that. Some of these people.
In the interest of technical accuracy, you do not have to use iTunes to download any software for your iPhone. You just use your iPhone to do that, just like you would on an Android device.
And to be fair, I owned one iPhone once, and I thought I'm done with this with iOS. And iOS is basically one-sided. It's not a monopoly, but it's one-sided. And I thought that's not fair.
Well, Windows is one-sided too, and that's okay.
Because I was a computer science administrator or computer science student in the Linux admin, not supposed to let technology rule their life.
Yeah, but Jenny, iOS is a lot more biased than Windows.
Whatever that means.
Can I just mention something you said, Dog? You said about more pedophiles these days, kind of thing. It's not actually true. It's just that in the past, it used to be one of those, oh, don't talk to Uncle John, there's something wrong with him kind of territory. Whereas today, we are less likely to keep quiet about that stuff.
It's true that more are exposed. Of course it is. There's channels on YouTube that expose
Yes,
these
but it doesn't
people.
mean to say that there are more of them. It just means that there are more people that get caught. Because
That's what I said. I'm not saying there's less of them. Pedophiles have gone throughout from the beginning of humanity.
Well,
as
and
of
the biggest
July
thing,
1st,
In the
2019,
Bible,
12 states have no minimum
11-year-olds.
age range when all exceptions are taken into account, such as requiring parental consent or a judge's approval. These states are California, Ohio, Maine, and Massachusetts, Michigan, Mississippi, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, Washington, West Virginia, and Wyoming.
Yeah, you're reading that.
Yes,
all I'm
I
going
am.
to say is, all I'm going to say is we all know Onision has a channel. We don't need to mention it.
But Laura, yes, paedophiles have always been here, but they have been exposed a lot because of the internet.
The big thing with the internet is that before we had the internet, you only heard about it if it happened in your state.
Yeah,
now you hear about it anywhere in the world.
But now they are exposed worldwide, and we see this, and the police forces have set up departments devoted to exposing these people. They hide in the dark webs and exchange these pictures of. I think I've seen it on Twitter. You get this old guy that'll just post videos and photos of these children being abused, and obviously they can do it, but then they're reported and they disappear, but they'll only keep popping up. It'll never ever go away because it's like people who like I don't know, who have foot fetishes or tights. I think you call them pantyhose in America. These fetishes these people have, and it's disgusting as far as I'm concerned. And this is, paedophilia has gone back right through the Bible, and it will go back to the beginning of humanity.
I didn't say it didn't exist. I only said that the idea that it has increased is not the case. It's just
Right.
you're
Of
more
course it's
likely
the
to get
case.
caught. It's
Yeah,
not.
well, that's why I was saying is that you hear about it a lot more because you hear about it anywhere that it happens now. But I don't think it's happening any more than it did in the 1950s.
No, it
But
hasn't
that
happened
whole
anymore.
thing, you know, the fact that we are connected to the entire world, we can get news from just about any country on earth at the click of a
Yes.
button. And it's another reason why, and I just had this argument with my mother where she was like, you know, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I think that the reason we're seeing a spike and we're seeing more autistic kids is because of the hormones they're putting in food. And I'm like, I'm not going to say that the hormones are good or bad, but vaccines don't cause autism. And she understands that. She thinks it's something else. I'm like, no, Mom, there's a point in time where someone like Richard would have just been considered mentally retarded, and that'd be the end of it. We have a better understanding of neurodivergence, of autism,
Yep.
and we
Yeah,
also have
we-
a larger population. And we know, like, you would have only known of an autistic kid if they went to your kid's school. Whereas now we can see trends and, you know, we can hear news that, oh, there are more autistic people, or, you know, there's just more visibility for autistic people. But it's just higher population, better understanding of how the brain
Yeah.
works, and
And
being more
trends started
connected.
in 2017.
Also, we've also had a lot of reclassification under a spectrum for autism, and
Exactly.
then over the years too. That
Yep.
brings in more people.
Yeah,
And
Well,
of
I
course,
don't-
better diagnosis
also-
too.
Yeah,
Also, shared information around the world also has its downside.
Yeah. I
So
don't
the
think
actual rates of autism
Anti-vaxxers.
hasn't increased.
Flat earthers and all these
Yeah.
other people that just.
I don't think autism was even a diagnosis in the you know, the what's it, the I forget what it's called now. The
DSM-5.
diagnostic manual for
DSM.
human psychiatry.
DSM-5.
Yeah, the DSM. Yeah, I don't think it was until the DSM-4 that autism was even listed, and that came out like what, the early 90s, I think. I'm not sure exactly. So it's, you know, basically it's a diagnosis that basically didn't exist 40 years ago.
Well, it probably existed, perhaps it just wasn't recognised. I'm guessing that
Yeah.
these things like bipolar and autism, and these simple constructs that we have mentally have gone back to the beginning of time.
Yeah,
And,
it didn't
and
even start
it's
around
just
the
that
1930s.
we've had the ability to recognise them and
You
put a diagnosis.
you guys could just
on
take
it.
care of this by realizing that all three of you are correct in your points. We recognize it better. Okay, we hear of more incidents now, and there are more incidents now because the world population has doubled since the 50s.
It's more than doubled, isn't it, Jenny?
Well, whatever. You get
I
more
mean,
if you
I
have.
was born in '69, and it was just three billion people then. And it's what 7.5 billion now, is that?
Okay,
Fine. We don't need to worry over or spilt milk. We have
Yeah,
more
well,
people,
it's
so we're
gonna-
going to have more cases.
yeah, I did a quick
Well, it's going to get double. Well, it's going to get a lot bigger.
I did a quick Google to check on that and confirm that yes, the DSM-4 was revised in 1994, and that was the first edition to include autism as a diagnosis.
What are vaccines?
No, just
No, just to it's a psychiatrist diagnostic manual, the standardized diagnostic manual for all the psychiatrists in the U.S.
Oh, right.
And it wasn't until 1994 that the standardized diagnostic manual listed autism.
which is incredibly recent, all things considered, you know. And I don't know. I really I do like the interconnectedness. Like, I love the internet, the fact that you can make friends all over the world. And I think all in all, globalization and us making connections with people around the world is going to be a net positive, because not only can, say, people in the United States look and talk to their friends in other countries. Like, we hear the propaganda of, you've got death camps and wait times where you die waiting for treatment in Canada. But then I've got friends in Canada and I can just ask them, and they're like, yeah, like if you need like a knee surgery, you might have to wait a little bit. But like if you need like a bypass surgery, you get bumped to the front of the line. It's in order of care, like, or in order of need.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and like, so we can see how much we're getting screwed in this country and how much we're being lied to, because we can go straight to the source without it being filtered through propagandistic bullshit. There are downsides to it, of course, but I think overall, like, we are a very tribalist and, in-group, out-group type of species. And the more people that, we can like fit in our in-group, the more interconnected we are as a species, I think the better overall the world will be. But it's still going to take time, and the fucking dinosaurs need to die off first. Not you, Purple.
I just wanted to mention that again, in the interest of accuracy, you do have to wait in America for various procedures. I had to wait for my cataracts. I had to wait for my hips. I'm waiting for a knee. That you have to wait. It's called too many patients, not enough physicians and nurses and space.
It's also based more on your wallet.
That's like just
living it's a wallet buyout.
Like living in England, but except we don't pay for it because we have our waiting times are ridiculous. But
in the United States, it is not about, like in Canada, where it is assigned in order of need. In the US, you have to do a wallet biopsy to see if you can even afford the procedure in the first place. And if you can't, sorry about your luck. Guess you'll die then.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're just like a person on a checkout.
Again, to be fair, when I had my heart attack, I got to the ER. I knew what it was going to cost. I knew I didn't have health insurance. And I said, I can't pay for this. Let me die. And they wouldn't.
They're not legally allowed to. If you're in an emergency situation and you get to a hospital, they have to treat you, regardless of your ability to pay, insurance status, or immigration status. They have to treat you. Then they can saddle you with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt that you'll never be able to pay off. But they can't just let you die.
Just to show the difference between the U.S. and the Canadian medical system, I know a trans woman in Canada that I'm not quite sure the exact situation, but there's some complications with her gender reassignment surgery. And they feel that the doctors they have there are not going to be able to handle it. So they are paying to fly her to San Diego to a specialist and put her up there for a week to have the surgery in the US. So the Canadian government is paying a US doctor to do the surgery because they didn't think they had a doctor capable of doing it.
Yes. Also comes a free enterprise of healthcare. And I believe that healthcare in America, it's all about the money in America. That's what it's always been. It's the world knows it as a American greed, basically, where everyone would just be greedy about their stature. So it's either healthcare, in politics, no one cares about the people; they just care about themselves. Religion, so much so that you've got like 50,000 different states of Christianity who are all making individual money for whoever's running that little area of religion. It's basically it's your mafia, it's your mobs of money makers. That's all it is, and it's you guys that lose out. It's sad, really.
So one of the things,
to be fair, even with what you lot are paid on, I know here we pay an amount. I think it's about £8 now for medicine if you're working. It's free if you're not working. You will get all your medicine for free, creams, whatever medicine you want, inhalers
Yeah.
for
Well,
free.
All
because of
unfortunately, the situation in the U.S. is that the government caters to the billionaires and the big corporations and does not look out for the welfare of the average citizen.
To be honest, there's not much. It depends on where you are. I mean, in the UK, I've said before that transcare in the UK is bloody awful. That you're waiting for 4 years just to get your first appointment.
We have a waiting list here, and Oxford's correct. We do have our shit bags here as well.
And well, let me just explain. So so what happens is, so December 2018, I went to my doctors, asked him to refer me to a gender identity clinic. I had a screening call in the following February, so a few months later. And then that was it. And the only contact I ever had from them was them acknowledging me, sending them an email to say that I changed my name and telling them that I changed my NHS number so that I could have an F on my paperwork. And other than that, didn't hear a thing until February last year, when I got a call from a new clinic that's opened in Manchester. And they were basically anybody in their catchment area that was a would normally be with Leeds or Sheffield, and I was with Leeds. Can we move you to our books? If I was still with Leeds, it would be the end of this year into next year, just to get the first assessment. Probably, maybe a bit more. I don't know. From February being first contacted to getting HRT in my hands after two assessments, it took 18 weeks. That was it. It took 18 weeks. And the reason why transcare is so bad is almost certainly related to the fact that there are at least a couple of things that are really bad when it comes to waiting lists and actual care in itself. One is transcare and the other one is mental health. So if I go to my doctors and say I'm feeling a bit depressed, he'll wheel his way over into a file cabinet, pull out a piece of paper, and they'll give me a bunch of charities on there that can help, because the NHS really doesn't have the resources, and that so because transcare or gender dysphoria used to be considered a mental disorder, it that it was under the mental health sort of process, and again under-resourced, and so
intentionally.
I mean, I remember I've got Asperger's. I was tested in 2010. It took 3 years for me and my doctor to try and get that to happen, to be tested. And, I went up to the local mental health department of the local hospital, and they said that they don't test it, and they don't have the budget for testing either. That what they have is effectively limited to severe problems. So basically, unless you're chasing someone at the street with an axe, showing signs of psychosis where you're a danger to someone else or yourself, at which point they put you in a closed ward and put lots of drugs into you to keep you calm. Outside of that, they just don't have the resources.
Laura, question?
Sure.
One of the scare tactics that the right wing uses here about socialized medicine or single payer, better name, is that if you have that system in your country that you can't have any choice whatsoever and you're stuck to their doctors, their hospitals, blah blah blah, you're allowed to go get private care, aren't you?
Yes. Not only can we have private care, we have localized NHS options as well. So, for example, and it's amusing the coincidence of it, but in the January of 2019, so bear in mind the month after I decided to transition, didn't decide to be trans, I decided to transition after 19 years of holding it back. But anyway, So what happened was I found a lump on my right breast. So I went to a doctor's and I was treated like a female patient, which was great. And it's like, okay, definitely something there. I want you to go up to the hospital to get a scan. Now, we've got two choices. You can either go to the local hospital. However, they've got a fixed gender clinic system. And because I can't remember the way he said it much more apologetic than this. But, effectively, because underneath genetically I would be classed as male, then I would have to go to the male clinic, and that wouldn't be very comfortable for you. The other option is go to Oldham, and I've worked with her before. She's great. They've got a mixed gender clinic system. I think you'd be more comfortable. So it's like, yeah, we'll do that. And so I went up and I got a scan, and it turned out that I was growing boobs without hormones, which was nice. But yeah, so I had options.
Oh, no, that's
I
quite
didn't have to be
interesting.
stuck to go to the local hospital. I could go to any of the hospitals in the area.
Were you on blockers at the time?
I wasn't on anything.
Really?
I've heard that
Oh yeah,
before.
the only thing I had was makeup and clothes. That was my transition. It was all social.
I have
I've
read
read
of
that before,
instances
that
of
you-
that
that you-
happening spontaneously.
Yeah.
When people decided to make that decision, that just somehow their brain started changing the chemistry on its own.
It was
It's like-
Interesting.
It's 1 in 1,000 side effect reaction to one of my medications.
Okay, that
So
makes
and
sense.
it was comical because, like I say, I literally decide in December I'm going to transition. In January, I find a lump and I get an exam, and it's like, and apparently I got something called gynecomastia, which is male breast growth, and like I say, with no hormones at all.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate that I take something called finasteride, and the medication that caused the gynecomastia. My testosterone count.
Which med was that?
Sorry?
Which med caused it?
Oh, it's called amitriptyline.
Oh, really?
Amitriptyline is
That's a painkiller.
antidepressant. It's an antidepressant, actually.
It has multiple uses. It's also used for.
It is used
heart
in
issues.
chronic pain patients, yes, but like its original intended use was as an antidepressant.
Yeah.
Also, fair to note, gynecomastia is started by many, many different drugs. It can also happen spontaneously during adolescence or adulthood.
Mhm.
And one of the other drugs that can encourage it is marijuana.
Ah,
Oh, really? I had
Yes.
not heard marijuana encouraged it.
Oh, absolutely.
You guys start smoking weed, Purple. We'll
Yeah,
have you in
you
a
know-
D cup eventually.
Yeah, well,
But amitriptyline falls under the opiates. I wouldn't
No.
have
I've
thought
been
that
on the
would be-
HRT for almost a year, and I'm just barely starting to bud.
I'm well endowed now. Can't say big. I'm not big, but I'm certainly probably a B.
Well, I'm just at the point that the T-shirts that are tight on me are starting to show.
So
Well, you
amitriptyline
could
is real quick for dog. Amitriptyline is a prescription antidepressant that belongs to a category known as tricyclic antidepressants. First developed in the
Oh,
1960s, this medicine is used to treat major depression and is also prescribed in low doses to manage conditions that cause chronic pain.
Ah,
It's not an opiate.
Yeah.
I'm
The main
on
thing,
it.
the main thing isn't SSRI, and I didn't do well with SSRIs.
SSRIs made me lose my
Ah.
fucking mind. I
Yeah.
was on amitriptyline before, and I didn't have any bad side effects other than it made me a little bit sleepy. But I didn't really notice a change because, like, I switched doctors and the script didn't get sent over, so I just didn't have it for quite a while, and I didn't notice a difference. So I said, well, there's no point in taking a medicine if I'm not going to notice a difference, not taking it. And yeah, amitriptyline, I didn't have any adverse reactions to, but the couple of times that they tried to put me on SSRIs, it absolutely fucked my shit up. I went psychotic.
I went
tramadol.
through-
Do you have tramadol
I was-
in America?
I was heading the same way because I was just like, I got like some plushy toys. I just suddenly thought, oh, maybe I should take scissors to them. Or, I've got this really expensive camera. I wonder what it would be like to open the window, hold it out, and then let go and watch it explode. just had these weird destructive thoughts.
They're called intrusive thoughts, and mine were those, and also like harming myself, and not pleasant.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, so they kept trying new drugs, trying to find something that would help. And I went through the whole family of SSRIs before they ever figured out that I was autistic. Just because they've become so common here that they wind up prescribing them to people without really having a proper diagnosis.
Yep.
for
Throw
those-
something,
Alright,
throw it all at the
actually
wall and see if
antidepressants,
anything
aren't they?
sticks.
Yep.
And for those in the chat who do not know or wish to know what an SSRI is, it's what's known as a serotonin reuptake inhibitor.
Selective
means-
serotonin reuptake inhibitor.
Yeah. That's right.
I thought it was a neurotransmitter.
What it does is at the synapse of each nerve cell, which are they're dendrites, and the dendrites don't actually they end in a synapse, and the synapse does not touch the next cell. It sends chemicals across the cell and when they're done, it brings them back. Or the other cell that it sends it to will send more back as a response. And this changes the rate and volume of that message passing, and so therefore theoretically it will change how and what you think, and we know damn well it does, as Kitty was just describing.
Yeah, and
Can I just mention to the chat, Ox, with it will all be goose stepping German right now. If it wasn't for America, could I just say he's either quoting Austin Powers or he's naive that America got caught unaware 2 years into a global war. That America, we'd already won the war before America did the Pacific and they did Japan. Done. Ended the war. Fair enough. With the H-bomb. Done by German scientists, by the way.
Dog?
We don't say we'd lost the war.
Okay, Dog, if you want, that's a huge topic that we can have a whole stream on if you want to do that.
We should, actually, but I've done, yeah.
Yeah.
I love America.
Yeah,
I'm just sorry for you guys.
Yeah.
I just got a news blurb notification. R. Kelly was sentenced to 30 years in prison.
I saw that, but I was going to wait until a lull in the conversation to mention it.
30 years.
Good.
Fuck that guy.
Well, it's nice to see that once in a while the justice system does something.
Agreed.
Fuck that guy, and somebody will.
Probably.
Yeah, but I personally...
Maxwell only got 20 years. What's that all about?
I personally am not a fan of prison rape jokes just because rape is horrible, even if he does deserve to be traumatized.
Yeah.
My comment is based on the fact that people who are child sex offenders are treated very harshly by the population.
Yeah, even people in prison don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other inmates tend to take a very dim view of these people.
And you're right, it is a horrible thing, but it happens, and I don't know how they can stop it. I wish they would.
Well, I think that it's also kind of part of the culture that since the guards take a dim view of these people, they probably, tend to be less attentive when things happen to them.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
In America, do you still have time off for good behavior?
Yeah. It's a possibility when a person goes in front of their parole board.
Depends on how it's sentenced. The judge can implicate or apply a no shortening of the sentence. I forget what it's called.
It would be life imprisonment with no possibility of parole.
Yeah, but there's also states that say you will serve, 438 years in prison for all your serial killings. I mean,
oh no,
that's just a ridiculous sentence. I mean, it's nonsense to people.
Well, okay, they are nonsense, but why the why judges will do things like 3 consecutive life sentences is because of, things
Yeah, I
like
get
the
that.
early
I get that. But
releases. Yeah.
when they actually say, you're sentenced to 400 years in prison, what's that mean?
Well, that's to make sure that the parole board, under their rulings, doesn't say, well, you've had good behavior, so we can take 10 years off of your sentence. So the judge makes it several hundred years. So anything like that somebody at the prison can do will be meaningless.
Yeah, I suppose it is extreme.
Well, we're just expecting them to all be Highlanders.
Well, you Americans are awesome. You're just going through a bad time, a lot of you at the moment.
Well,
with
no,
what's going on.
I could. I would actually could do with finding myself a vampire that could make me one of the undead, so that I can
Honestly,
get all my
yes.
modeling projects done.
Please, bitch, if you ever find an immortal vampire over there in Europe, please come hook a sister up. Like, honestly, I would take joining the soulless undead over, this shit.
You can send them my way next
sincerely
to.
believe-
At least I'll be able to get all my modeling projects done, and and I'll probably invent Vector 3000 sunblock.
Are there any vegan vampires?
I mean, maybe vegetarian that only ate animals. But honestly, I do have a little bit of a vampire
Count
fetish.
Duckula.
I love vampires.
Count
But
Duckula.
I
He's a
actually have
vegan
to
vampire.
bounce. I have to go pick up my partner from work. So I have to go. If you guys are still streaming when I get back, then I'll pop back in.
No, actually, this
otherwise-
is probably a good point for me to be wrapping this up at. So,
Okay, well,
Kitty, do you have anything you want to plug before you go?
yeah, I was going to do that real quick. Tonight on Godless Granny's channel, I'll be on there with her. It is at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. So you can check me out there. And excuse me, I choked on air. GG. But yeah, so I'll be on there. And then I know Deidre, Holy Spackle, is doing a stream about bisexuality and some of the issues that we as a community face. And I believe that is scheduled for July 5th. So I will post more about that on Twitter as it gets a little bit closer to it and we get a time situated. But yeah, so yeah, no, like honestly, I would have to make sure that the immortality and vampire stuff would fix my body. If it did, then I'm totally down. But yeah, so anyways, see you guys tonight on Godless Granny's channel. And thank you for having me, Purple.
Bye.
Oh, always. Okay, Mage, I know
Yeah.
you've got something to plug.
Yes, I just started my own garden channel. It's called Gardens Happen. I just recently uploaded my first video to it, and you'll check that out. It's just a little garden tour. If you want, I can put the link in the chat here.
Yes, please do. Yeah, drop it in the YouTube chat.
There. And I'll probably be over on Lavender Lady's stream later tonight, if
Moo.
she streams. If, considering the way things have been going with Wednesdays.
What time your stream back?
Well, let's go over to that then. Diana, when's your stream?
Let's see. I'll be doing 7 p.m. today, Eastern. Kate will very likely not be with me because she's packing for her move next week. So
I can't believe she's making that move. Jeez.
say again?
I can't believe that she's moving from California to Vermont.
What?
Yeah, well, it's essentially moving back home.
Yeah, I get that, but
Yeah.
climatized. Ooh, boy. It's going to be a shock for her this winter.
I wasn't thinking so much
Yeah.
about the actual weather as I was thinking about the political climate being
Yeah.
kind of a shock there.
Better
Well,
Vermont than
the
New
way she talks about Vermont, it's kind of hippified.
Well,
And,
it is where Bernie's from.
Yeah.
How about the traveling difference between you and Purple?
Say again, honey?
How about the traveling distance between you and Purple?
About
Me and
1,000
Purple?
miles now.
It's 1,000 miles an hour. How will it be when you've moved?
No, I'm
Oh,
not
no.
moving. Kate, Bionic Dance
Yeah.
is.
Oh, duh, missed that.
I am
Sorry.
trying to get Diana to move, but she's resistant to the idea.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. That's what I mentioned.
Yeah.
It, but I missed that bit.
If at all possible, I would get Diana moved into the same building I'm in.
Oh,
You know,
gee,
that way
Diana
we
can
wouldn't
move
have
in
to
with
worry
me, I
about her
told
getting
her.
to all of her appointments and things.
Well, if things get much worse than they are now, I'm not going to be moving anywhere except into the ground.
You live forever.
I did hear
girl.
that Pennsylvania did some amending to their laws to basically take any references to homosexuality out of their laws.
Oh, I didn't hear that one. I didn't.
Yeah, basically to make sure that nobody tries to criminalize homosexuality in Pennsylvania.
Okay, because what I'm doing right now is with the garbage that's going on with drugs and Roe v. Wade and everything, I'm looking up what it might do to immunosuppressants or what it has done to immunosuppressants, because without an immunosuppressants, I can't have a kidney, and without a kidney, bye guys.
Yeah.
See ya.
Well, and also that, you know, all the problems that they're making it for doctors to prescribe hormones.
Well, that too, yeah, and that's another door out as far as that goes, because it's to the point where I've really got no good reason to stick around.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of working up the nerve.
Well, people love you. Why would you not want to stick around for people who love you?
We're not going to go into that because I'll get very bitter and you won't like it.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay. Well, we want to
Still
keep you
love you.
around.
I'll
We'll just
bet
leave it
you
at
are.
that.
Still love you.
So anyway, Dog, what about you? You got anything you need to plug?
No, just thank you, mate. Thank you for having me involved again.
Yeah, well, you know, I appreciate you've been, you know, helping support the channel for some time now, sending me a bit on Patreon every month.
It's just, it's nice. I didn't know there was such a thing as National Camera Day. I just didn't know that these things existed. But
well, I have found about a half
dozen
websites that just list obscure holidays.
Wait till we get to Pimple on Your Ass holiday.
And to be fair, Jenny and Diana are the only people that have actually bothered using their cameras on National Camera Day.
Yeah. And Greg, since you asked, my car situation is still pretty messed up. I am having trouble making any real progress with it, and because they're going to have a sweeper clean the parking lot tomorrow, I had to actually push my car out of the parking lot onto the street because it won't start at this point. So basically, I know I've got to scrap this car, but if I scrap it now and I buy another one later, I'll get screwed for not having insurance.
Yeah.
So I have to keep this car around as a placeholder and keep insurance on it so that I can transfer it to the new insurance and I don't get hit as being an uninsured driver.
Do you need us to help in any way?
I was trying to avoid that, but I may need it because I thought I was going to be able to get a loan through my credit union, and that has not worked out for me.
Yeah,
How much is the insurance for the first month?
Well, the insurance is covered. Actually, I wound up just renewing the insurance last month, so it's covered for the next 6 months. And whatever's left over on that, I can transfer to the next vehicle. So I'm not worried about that part of it, but it's just as far as just getting another, even getting another 10-year-old clunker to drive around is going to be at least $3,000.
That's insane that they would count you as an uninsured driver when you don't have a car to drive.
It's bullshit, but that's the way it happens.
The same here in the UK.
Yep.
Yeah, Greg, I was just about to say something about that, but if we do that, we're going to have to be very careful about who handles the funds.
I didn't get that kind of treatment with Safeco, and we're in the
We
same
don't
state,
want
and the
any-
same insurance regulations. Check them out.
One of the differences in the US is that you, at least as far as I remember it, is that you insure the driver, not the car. Whereas in the UK, it's like one car, one man
Yes.
insurance, two cars, two different versions, two different account. Lots of insurance.
You're correct. If somebody else is driving your car, especially without permission, it can crash and it's not covered.
Mm.
But each company can do it a different way if they want.
Yeah.
That's the same here, Laura.
But basically, as long as I can keep the insurance covered current, and honestly, I was surprised the insurance for me was relatively cheap, but it's a small little hatchback. And all I need was liability because it was over 10 years old already. So basically, yeah, the insurance for me is only like $60 a month. It's not a huge expense.
Only.
Please go check Safeco. I'm paying $45 a month.
I just need to point out I'm paying nothing, and my vehicle does about 900 miles to the gallon.
Or do you have a scooter?
A bicycle.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say it was a tank of gas.
Well, no.
Gallon of what?
Gallon of fat.
Yeah,
Juice,
if you're saying
water,
how many miles to the
water.
gallon, then you need to measure how many miles you get up before your lunch wears out and you need to eat again.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, here in the UK, by 2030, all vehicles have to be electric.
Okay, well, we were working on the wrap up here. So, Laura, did you have anything you wanted to plug? Any last words?
Nothing I need to plug as such, but I am celebrating my 1 year anniversary on HRT, which has been great.
Happy anniversary.
Okay,
Yeah.
when is your anniversary?
Well, my diagnosis was not Friday, but the Friday before. And my 1 year anniversary of taking HRT was the 25th, so Saturday, just gone.
Are you going to pass out estrogen cakes?
I didn't realize we had started that close together. That we started less than a month apart here.
All right, I started getting HRT on June the 25th, which meant that it was Christmas Day, which was my half year. So 6 months was Christmas Day, which gave me something to celebrate because Christmas is kind of shitty because my mum said she didn't want anything to do with me.
I got my first prescription filled in the first week of June last year.
Nice.
All right, so that means you two should get together, split it down the middle, June 15th, and celebrate together.
Yeah.
Okay. Porpoise, what have you got going on?
I'm working on my statistics homework, and that's about it.
Okay, so not expecting any videos out anytime soon?
And maybe after this week when I have a little more time, but this is the final week of the philosophy class. And I have to do the statistics until those weeks are over. But
Are you suggesting you're going to have more qualifications than Steve when it comes to philosophy?
you mean having taken an actual course?
Exactly.
So, Sinister, what you're saying is that you've got homework to do, and after you're done, you may do a video. So you're really saying if then else.
Yes.
But
I just want to address that for a second because I've been trying not to mention that person's name.
Oh, okay.
Because he doesn't need the attention.
No.
But the reason I took that class was because of him. Because I thought philosophy cannot be as boring as he makes it out to be.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. It is as boring as he makes it out to be.
Okay.
I don't think you're boring at all.
Okay, Jenny. Have
What?
you got any
What do you
last
want?
words? Are you going to be appearing on anything soon?
Well, let's see. Isn't tonight? God, I'm so bad at memorizing this. Isn't this Beck's night?
Normally it would be. Beck has not been Beck didn't do any streams last week. I
Yeah,
haven't heard anything about this week.
because he's on the road. Well,
Yeah.
if he's on, I'll be on. And then tomorrow night, of course, your thing, which you're about to mention.
Yep.
Other than that, no. Got nothing going. Although I'm thinking of going for a swim in that pond covered with scum.
Oh, yay.
You know what? That pond water covered in scum is an excellent source of thiamine, which is a vitamin you really can't get from any other source. It only comes from algae.
Or
you get a
it's
little
blue,
bit of it in your meat just because the cows drink unfiltered water and it gets stored in their muscle tissue.
or it's blue-green algae, and it'll kill you when you touch it.
Well, yes, it could also be the sort that gets in your ear and eats your brain, but...
Can I ask Jenny one question?
No.
Jenny, what is the view we're seeing now from your camera?
What are we looking at? There's just this
yeah.
little pond which is centered on a lowland, which is kind of marshy, and it's between some houses and the high school area. It's not an official park. It's just something you're not going to ever build anything on.
Oh, it's beautiful. Can I ask why the camera keeps nervously bouncing?
Because I have it suspended with duct tape.
Okay.
And if I move the camera moves.
Okay, fair enough.
I just wanted to share this with you. I've been watching Heathrow Airport planes landing live, and I just saw this in the background, one with a massive rainbow flag on the tail, which is
wow.
cool.
Yeah, cool.
So,
More corporate rainbows.
Even my local council flag is now is rainbow at the moment.
Well, Uber has quit using rainbow markers for the cars on their maps. They quit that a couple of days ago, so they're ahead of the end of Pride.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, I will be here tomorrow night at 10 p.m. At this point, it's about the only thing that I'm committing to being around for, because Sloth Girl is still recovering from a broken ankle, so I'm having to spend a lot of time up there, to make sure she's taken care of, because she can't stand long enough to cook food.
My condolences to Sloth Girl, because I suffered a broken ankle about 30 years ago, and it's not fun.
And that's our normal arrangement, is that she usually takes care of cooking dinner most of the time. So, I've had to take that up for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I just need to thank the people who help keep things running for me, my Patreon subscribers, and Skids Crasher has been making a habit of throwing me a bit on PayPal at the beginning of each month, along with Jyuni the Apostate, Ox, Robert X, Mark Caesar, the Lavender Lady, Greg Hartwick, and Dog. And it's like, except for Robert X, I think you're pretty much all here today. Robert X and Jyuni didn't come around, but and my latest new Patreon subscriber is Kitty.
Yay!
Hey.
So, appreciate the help from all of you. And it's like, even though a lot of you, it's only like $1 or $2 a month, it's all added together. It's become a significant amount now.
That is wonderful. It really is. Does it cover your internet connection yet?
No, not. It hasn't gotten up to that level yet. It's paying maybe half to 2/3 of the internet connection.
Okay.
But it's like I would definitely have the internet anyway. So
American internet is really expensive.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm paying $100 a month for mine.
Yeah, $100 a month is not uncommon.
I'm paying £38 a month.
Really, I'm paying $35 for mine.
So what's that about?
That includes cable, though, doesn't it? TV.
Yeah, I don't pay for cable. I just use streaming services now. and pirate what I really want.
That's same here. I don't have any cable, but just the internet alone, which is supposed to be a 20 gig service, but in practice, I tend to run around 8 gigs when I try to time it. And
needs more than 8 gig.
Yeah, just for that, I'm paying $75 a month.
I should have put my Nikon D3500 up the stream.
Okay. Well, anyway, I thank you all for coming. So,
I haven't come yet.
Huh?
I haven't come yet. That'll be later tonight.
Okay, we will see you all tomorrow night. Bye-bye.
All right, honey.
Bye.
Here's
Bye,
a
everybody.